Dakota, I mean, really what I think we need to see is some sort of letter of agreement or some sort of, I mean, I would like a contingent lease agreement so that we entered into a lease agreement that's contingent on us being approved for the charter. That's what I would like to see.
That's funny. Sales brochure for a lot.
You take a memorandum of understanding?
Yeah, I think a written memorandum of understanding, I think that's fine. Just something where we know they actually, if they get the charter, they've got the lease. Or they've got the
Well,
building.
some of these have an executed lease.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we
Wow.
doing clarification next month?
It's a private school.
Yes, the first set of
Okay.
applicants will come before you for clarification next month.
They can-
Okay, but we can't knock off any of the acceleration yet because we don't have all the evidence.
Right, but we discussed having all 16, and as you know, if the applicant is approved or recommended for a full interview, then that interview comes the following month. So that would potentially be 16 or 17 full interviews the following month if we invite them all for clarification in November, which is why I was suggesting that we limit it to possibly 6 or 7, groups of 6 or 7 for the next 3 months.
Well, in my opinion, if they do not, within the 5-day window, submit evidence that they are eligible for acceleration, then they are
Not.
removed from this list.
Is that what you're saying with the MOU?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
and I
so
mean-
by Friday.
And I guess I'll reiterate what I said one time before, especially for any of those that are listening to us talk about this. If you check the box for acceleration and you didn't submit evidence of a facility, makes me think you probably don't need a charter. I mean, I just, if that's something, this isn't a checkbox. I want my application considered first. This is a checkbox. I've got a facility. I'm ready to go. I've got a great need. And so, I need an answer quick so that we can get going on everything. I just really want to know because I don't want to wait till the end of the application cycle. And so I'm gonna check this box and give absolutely nothing as an evidence. To me, if they don't have that in within that 5 days, I think it's fine to go ahead and keep an acceleration. I don't plan on voting on any of them to come outside of clarification.
So I think on the,
Excuse me, if they don't qualify for acceleration, they can just be a regular application with the,
I'm just saying
Steve was
personally,
just
I'm
saying.
not going to vote for them I'm not going to vote for them to get an interview if they have checked the acceleration box and not given us any evidence.
okay.
okay,
I mean,
so,
that's just me. Y'all can vote however you want.
so I think if the board is okay with it, what I'd like to do is just we'll take this information, we'll review the clarification or the evidence documents, and if the board's comfortable with it, the board committee chairs will, on our conference call, just work with our Office of Charter Schools to come up with a schedule that we think is best for the clarification interviews. Likely going to follow whatever pattern we followed last time, where if we're seeing schools that are true acceleration and are going to need a decision sooner rather than later, we'll do those clarifications followed by the full interview the next month. And as soon as we have that information, we'll send it out to you through and you'll have access to does everyone have access to the portal yet? No.
They do not. I'll get everyone's NCID and do that. We
Yeah.
did hear the request about getting applications sooner than 1 week before, and so we have worked out a schedule to get them to you at least 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
Yeah, because we're a month out from, sounds like, having our first cursory read of a set of applications. So if everybody's good with that, that's kind of be our process. I don't think it's not something we need to vote on, but.
Mr. Chair, just real quick, just to be clear, so by Friday, which is the end of the 5 days, is that correct?
Yes.
If these folks don't have an MOU or a contingent lease agreement, then we're saying we're not going to recommend them to even clarification. I just want to make sure that I'm clear.
Well, we still need to give everyone clarification. It's just, in the order in which we see them is kind of up to us anyways. So we will move the people that are have evidence of acceleration first in the schedule, and we'll see those folks first, and the ones that are not we'll see them on a schedule that we deem appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Fast track replication is the same as acceleration without the facility. I mean, are they trying to open next year also?
Yes.
They are.
They're just copying.
Replication, replication is they're copying an existing charter school. Acceleration is a brand new school that has a facility and can open up without having to go through that planning year.
But the timeline,
Year while they're going through their application.
I'm just wondering why we don't also have a facility
Both, right?
stipulation on the replication.
that's because they don't need the facility, because they're replicating an existing school, so they
Their
need,
fast track replication, they have to have a facility,
Yes.
That is,
because that's acceleration plus replication.
Yeah, so they're supposed to have a facility also.
the policy, the state board policy doesn't specifically mention having a facility for fast track.
yeah, I don't think it
Replication.
requires a facility. That's because the point is to, basically take schools that have existing data
Successful
success in North Carolina, or a CMO that knows how to do the work and replicate, and give them an opportunity to replicate
Do you
quickly.
see the same potential issue?
But
Sure,
they-
but I think you're dealing with a board that really knows
They
what they're
still
doing.
get to open, they don't have to, they still, what's the difference between replication and fast track replication?
Well, I mean, basically, they get to open on a shorter timeline as opposed to the 2-year time. I mean, you can replicate a school, but if you go through the regular application process, the 2-year timeline as opposed to a 1-year timeline.
Also, fast track,
Very confusing. We wanted the replication to be some clarification in the policy. This board decided they didn't want to do it, but you have a replication, you can either be a replicate and then you go through your planning year, or you can be a replicate and you do a fast track.
also fast track applicants are not required to attend the year-long planning sessions. They have a one-day workshop, if you will.
But they have to have the same board.
I'm not sure about the board piece. We're gonna have to look at that. I mean, this is a policy that we really reworked pretty extensively a couple of years ago, and then really has not been utilized that much, if at all. I'm trying to think. Okay, so why don't we'll just make sure that we have copies of the policy for the next meeting, and then we'll go ahead and schedule these in our with the leadership committee once we see the evidence that they have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we want to pick back up with Global Achievers. Okay. So, Dr. Swenson, if you want to come. So, I
And
think,
Mr. Kill had to go back to work.
okay.
Okay.
So I think we have, our big concern here is that really, I would say 2 things that are inherently linked. The first is that the numbers are obviously very low, and that you've already received more than you'll receive for the whole year in your allotment. Obviously, you draw that down in small increments, but you've received that. That just puts you in a very difficult financial position to manage. Also, and I would say that the third concern is just that statutorily, you're below the minimum requirement. And I think we kind of know where this type of situation ends up, and it's not good. So I think at this point we are left with very few options. And I guess I'll open it up there for the board.
I guess it's frustrating in a way because I really think the school could have been successful with a 1-year delay. Now I don't see any light for the school just because I just don't see how the school's going to finish the year. Just does not seem possible. I mean, already in the red, been allotted for 10 more students on a yearly basis than you would get. When you take 220 divided by 3, that gets you 73 students. You got 63. It's going to be your day 20, and I just don't see how we're ever going to get there. And so, Mr. Chair, I move that if the Board of Global Achiever School does not within 3 days from today agree to relinquish its charter on a date certain and provide for a transition plan for students prior to that date certain, that the State Board of Education immediately terminate the charter of Global Achiever School for failing to meet the enrollment requirements of state law and the charter agreement.
I second that.
Okay. Do you want to repeat the motion as well?
I will. I move that if the Board of Global Achiever School does not, within 3 days from today, agree to relinquish its charter on a date certain and provide for a transition plan for students prior to that date certain, that the State Board of Education immediately terminate the charter of Global Achiever School for failing to meet the enrollment requirements of state law and the charter agreement. So I can kind of explain what that motion would do. It would give Global Achievers 3 days, which gives them time to have a special board meeting. If they agree to relinquish their charter, they would say, here's the date that we're going to relinquish our charter that will give them enough time to transition their students out. And they would have a plan that they would come up with. Here's how we transition our students out by the day that we're going to relinquish the charter. If they get in and say, no, we're not relinquishing our charter, then our recommendation is that the state board immediately terminate the charter. So it
Mr.
kind of
Chair?
puts the ball in their court.
I'd like to remind my colleagues that a few years ago, we did have a charter school in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, Concrete Roses, that maybe after a couple of weeks, a month, realized that it did not have the enrollment to meet all of the expenses that it had planned. And so the board met and voluntarily agreed that the best thing to do for the children and for the school and for their own stress levels was to relinquish the charter. And I'm not sure the year that happened, but it had to have been at least 3 or 4 years ago. The board did the noble thing and the right thing and showed integrity and voluntarily relinquished the charter. No harm, no foul. So I hope Global Achievers really thinks this through and doesn't get stuck on an ego thing here and does the right thing for the children.
Lisa, I think one, I just want to say I know how difficult the work is. I know you've been working hard. I think that, the major misstep was in pushing forward to open rather than holding off and delaying for a year. When the building, when you had to, when you saw those pieces coming together, I think you know how difficult it is to do the work, and obviously this is a difficult situation for all parties involved, but I also think you have enough experience with this type of situation with people that have walked through this that this is the best course of action right now. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion as outlined by Mr. Walker? All right, motion carries. Obviously, you'll reach out to the Office of Charter Schools in terms of next steps and how to move forward from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so it's 12:55. What we're going to do in terms of the agenda, we've already had our application update. We are going to move the amendments, the academic data review, the amendments for discussion, and the state board updates to this afternoon. And we are going to move forward with our selected renewal school presentations right away. Presenters are going to be allotted 20 minutes each, and we're going to remain within that time frame strictly so that we can finish on time and also have equity in terms of the presentation. So it'll be 20 minutes or under in terms of time frame. So we'd like to get started right away. So if the folks from ACE Academy are here, could you raise your hand? Okay, great. So you all can come forward. And if you could just each come to the mic and do a really quick introduction of who you are and your role, and we'll be ready to go.
Hello. Hi. My name is Lila Manat. I'm the executive director of ACE Academy. I'm also a founding board member.
Hi, my name is Adolph Thorpe. I'm the board chairman.
Hi, my name is Molly Routh. I'm the principal.
Okay, great. So we have your plan, and board members, all the submitted materials are under this section of the agenda. So why don't you all kind of kick it off, and we will probably stop you and ask questions.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the board for having us today. We're very proud to be here as a school. My name is Adolph Thorpe, as I mentioned. I'm the board chairman for the past 5 years of ACE Academy. And I want to say that I'm very proud of our school. After a rough start with our charter, we're happy to report that we have made quite a bit of improvement over the past 5 years. Even though our growth has been slow, it's been steady, and we believe that this is the best year that ACE Academy has seen so far. I would also like to tell you that in the next couple of years, you're going to see a big difference in our performance. And we would love to have the opportunity to come back to you when we request our next renewal with some positive reports. And so I'd like to now introduce the Director of Operations to elaborate on our plans for the next couple of years, and also our principal to give you some more details. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to update you on where ACE Academy is. As you know, we're in our 5th year. We have approximately 410 students this year. We have been fiscally sound the past couple of years and have had a clean audit last year and expect one this year. We also are compliant with our EC Title I and federal funds reports, and we have a savings of $80,000. Our principal, Ms. Molly Roth, is going to present our academic plan.
Good afternoon. What you see in front of you on the screen is our mission statement that our students recite at our school. I'm not going to take the time to recite it to you today because I know we are on a time limit. You want me to? Want me to do it? Okay. Here is our North Carolina school report card data showing a comparison between 2016-17 school year and the 2017-18 school year. What you will notice is for the 2017-18 school year, we did meet our reading and math growth, and as well as we're very proud that we went from an F school to a D school. We increased our science achievement about 18 points, which is an overall percentage increase in proficiency of almost 84%. It's our understanding that we did not meet growth for our science end of grade test in 5th and 8th grade. We have made some adjustments to the academic plan that we presented to you last year based on feedback that we've received and training that we've also been involved with. Last December, we requested a comprehensive needs assessment from the Department of Instruction, and we did have that done, and we attended an unpacking where we learned more about what the Department of Instruction found. We have taken feedback from the Office of Charter School Visits as well as our partnership with Leaders Building Leaders.
Let's just pause there for one second.
Okay.
You're saying you're attributing not meeting growth to science?
That's my understanding from the data that we've received. We made our growth in reading and in math. You want me to go back to that slide?
Sure.
I never even heard of that. That's the data that we received back in, I guess, in August. and that our reading was at 71.8 and our math is at 76.9. As far as I can tell from the data we received from the Department of Instruction, that we did not make growth as overall as a school.
71 too low. Okay, I think the readings, well. What do you attribute the decline in reading growth to? Because I mean, you went up a little bit, but the growth went down slightly.
We looked at implementing a reading program last year for 3rd through 8th grade, and as we received feedback from our CNA and our Office of Charter School Visits, it was highly recommended that we implement a K-8 reading program, and as we saw that data, we recognized that was what we needed to do, as well as properly train the teachers on the implementation of the reading program, and that is something that we feel like was an area of growth for us last year.
What program did you implement last year?
We were, it's from Success Schools up in New York, and we were implementing their reading program, but it was not implemented with Fidelity. And this year we have begun with Wit and Wisdom through Great Minds, and it is a K-8 curriculum.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some more.
Okay. So based on the feedback from the various sources last year, we created some new positions at ACE Academy. The first is our Assistant Principal of Instruction, and which is very, very helpful in our teacher growth and accountability. Having someone in that role has been amazing for me as the principal this year, and amazing for the teachers as well. We also have a Dean of Students that is over our school culture, and our grade level leads are modeling and promoting best practices in the classroom, as well as we have added a position for the MTSS and our coordinator and our interventionalist, and she is really supporting students with their academic growth. Any questions?
No, I mean, my big question is, I think the document that's that has ACE Academy academic plan that has the chart.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think that looks great. I think if you implement that, I would expect to see results. I guess my question is just like, it's a lot to implement. So you've got a math curriculum and a reading curriculum, got some new positions. You know, I think all these things are I would say are probably the right things for you to be doing. I guess my question is, A, how's it going? And B, what are the challenges? And C, why should we believe you'll actually implement it?
So as far as we have implemented a new K-8 literacy curriculum, we are using the same math curriculum that we used last year. Okay. It was our first year with the National Training Network, and we have made some adjustments to that, the way we're implementing that this year. And we have also used the Engage New York for K2. This will be the 3rd year with the Engage New York. What we have done is we feel like we're providing the teachers with the necessary supports. We have sent teachers to training. Our National Training Network, our NTN coach, is meeting with the teachers, co-teaching with the teachers. The teachers are now required to practice the lesson prior to teaching, as well as complete the lesson in the student workbook, as well as the assessments before teaching the lessons or units.
Great.
I would just like to add, the big difference between last year and this year is last year we were in the process of changing. We recognized there were things that were missing, and that was why we were having low performance. So we started the process of learning and training last year, and this year we're in the process of doing the implementation.
Okay.
Any other questions right now?
I mean, what's been the biggest challenge? Like, what is not working that, you know, what is something that you're winning on, and what is something that right now you're not winning on that needs to get better?
Something that I think we're winning on is that with our teachers, with our new literacy curriculum, is that they love it. They can see the change that it's making in their classrooms. One thing that we really like is we're starting to see a common language, not only in literacy, but it's flowing over into other areas such as math. So the students are noticing and wondering as part of the curriculum, and now in math they are talking about noticing and wondering. One of the biggest challenges of that new curriculum is requiring the students and the teachers to think in a different way, in a way that they've probably not thought before. So we're seeing that as a challenge, and the lessons are taking longer than the anticipated time because of the newness of the curriculum and just getting used to thinking about things differently.
Wit and Wisdom is a pretty rigorous grade level, focuses on grade level text. You know, what are you doing to intervene with kids and provide instruction at their actual reading level?
That's a great question. It's a conversation I had last week with a first grade teacher, and that you're exactly right. It is rigorous, and they are grade level text. So in first grade, when the students come to first grade, Wit and Wisdom is assuming that they can read. And the reality is not all of our first graders can read. So the teachers are supplementing. We are using something we have called Success Block, and the 3rd through 6th grades, where they are working more on grade level text. We are bringing the text to them. We are using different modes for them to be able to engage in conversation about the text, whether it's they're reading out loud or being read to out loud the text in a small group. And the lower grades, they are supplementing with phonics instruction, as well as the teachers pulling small groups during various parts of the day and working with those students that are below grade level.
What does the supplementary phonics look like?
That is, we've just started that. The teachers, to be honest, are pulling from different resources, and we're using some of our open court from previous years and other resources that we have in the school. And they've just started doing that. We just finished our reading 3D instruction about 2 weeks ago, and they've just started doing that as they've looked at the data.
Your enrollment is increasing.
Yes, ma'am.
You're growing as a school. I just have concern. I mean, out of the last 3 years, it's a DL met, not met, then you didn't meet your growth last year. Do you guys realize how serious this is?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We recognize that it's serious. We are put the sense of urgency with our teachers. We definitely feel a sense of urgency, and we really feel like the plan that we have put together for this year, we really feel like we're going to see the change. When you walk in our school, it looks different, it feels different, the teachers are different, it's different. Everybody is, the investment for the students is different, the investment for the teachers is different, and we're really looking forward to see what the data tells us at come June. We're very looking forward to it.
Do you have data that shows how your students are progressing over time? So for example, are your 8th graders outperforming your 5th graders on passing rates? Do you see the longer kids are with you, the better they're doing?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Our current group of this year's 4th graders were the group that started at the school in kindergarten. And if I don't have it broken down in this presentation, I've got it in my bag if I need to refer to it. But we've seen that was our greatest area of proficiency to date with our students, and we saw that as they progressed through the school year, as we saw them, we do case assessments, and as we saw them grow with the case assessments, as well as through reading 3D, we had the highest part of proficiency at the end of the year and the least amount of students in our reading camp over the summer that was a requirement. And then this group of 3rd graders are the students that came in when I came in as principal, and we're seeing growth with them as well. And that's the challenge, I believe, about being in a charter school. When you need to fill a seat, you fill a seat, but students that are coming out of Other schools, they're not leaving and coming to a charter school because they're happy. They're leaving and coming because they're running from something, and it takes time to make up what they're running from. And we recognize that, and we want to have our students with some time, but it typically takes 2 to 3 years to see that growth.
Do you know the proficiency numbers of those third and fourth graders who have been with you?
I don't know them, to be honest, right off, but I have them in my bag if you would like to know them.
If at any time someone else speaks, I would.
Okay, okay.
Could you go ahead and move to the slide of like your projected proficiency?
Yes.
So they're projecting a 8-point increase overall next year, which I think seems reasonable. I would say ambitious, given that we don't know about retest. We're likely not going to have a retest in math next year.
So when you mentioned retest, none of our students took a retest in any of our subject areas. So our data is directly what the data was with the first. Well, they retested in third grade. Those students who did not pass third grade reading.
Why didn't you?
To be honest, that's not something that we had focused on and that we were necessarily aware that was a possibility.
Oh,
So-
that's
We in
like
reading this year.
5 points right there. But I mean, at least the data that you have is probably accurate to predict off of, because if you had a retest, the retests are going to look weird this year. So.
Well, and we came up with that 8 number because we knew where we wanted to be at the end of 3 years, but also our overall our overall score went up 3 points, our proficiency. So that's where we thought we could at least double it with the adjustments we've made to our plan.
Yeah. Okay. What questions? Any other questions people have? I mean, my biggest comment is, I think your plan is pretty strong. You've got gold standard curriculum, but it's difficult to implement curriculum. So I think that management of it, the coaching around it is critical, and you probably want to make sure that you lock down the phonics really hard in the lower grades, because if that's kind of a hodgepodge of teachers doing whatever, it's going to be messy. It's not going to be effective. But
Yeah.
now I'm just getting into the weeds of.
No, you're exactly right, and that's something that we do need to look into. But those conversations after our Reading 3D test have really begun in the last week or so. And the teachers are concerned, and they're asking for a curriculum.
I think that the other piece is like this plan. I don't know. As a principal, looking at this plan, like, this is all good. These are the strategies that I would say you probably need to be doing. And since you all are not a compliance issue and not a financial issue, you're in a space where you can drill down on instruction and try to win in that area. I just think, I don't know if I would, as a principal, be able to like really manage against this, like from an implementation standpoint. So for you and the people, your coaches, it's about taking this, what does it look like this week? What does it look like this month? So
Right.
if the quarterly data meetings or whatever, like, how do we make sure that those are up and running and we're tracking against those or whatever? So.
And that's a part of who owns what and having and delegating, because I recognize there's no way that I can manage that whole plan. There's no way, and that's why we're very excited about having our Dean of Students and having our Assistant Principal of Instruction to assist with that.
Right, but if you're the instructional leader, right?
Yes, yes. So I know I recognize it all falls on my shoulders, but to have the support is definitely beneficial for us.
Yeah, no, I think what I'm saying is like it's important that, particularly in a turnaround situation or when you're really need to make growth this year, because you guys still haven't moved past even a baseline 0 in terms of growth.
Right.
If you're going to do it, part of it has to be someone really owning the implementation and driving hard to make sure that things are actually happening, that
Right.
it's consistent. I don't know for the board and Director Machado, how do we feel about accepting their plan? I think we're just going to move on. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
And we're not going to be voting on anything for ACE.
All these schools
No,
are
this,
renewal year schools.
this is
aren't
their visit, their only visit they'll have in front of you before you vote on renewal.
Okay.
In December, so if there's anything else you need to talk to them about, but, no, they're not, expecting us to vote on their plan.
Great.
Looking at this school, I mean, it, under our chart, the renewal policy pretty much falls under a 3-year
Yep.
renewal. And,
If everything
I mean,
else is.
yeah, and I would think that when we vote, we're gonna vote on that in December. I would think when we do that, you know, maybe some stipulations about growth, because that seems to be where the issue is just getting that growth up. I mean, you know, you're in Cabarrus County, which is, you know, pretty solid performing county when you look at the LEA, but y'all are still pretty far behind the county in proficiency scores.
And actually, even though we are right at the Mecklenburg County, Cabarrus County line, the majority of our students are from Mecklenburg County. Even though we sit in Cabarrus, and I know that doesn't necessarily impact that because it's the county that we are in, but the majority, over 80% of our students are from Mecklenburg County.
You're still behind with them too. But
I know, but they are a little bit further. I think they're 3 points below Cabarrus. So.
Yeah, so I mean,
Could we ask,
the other trend lines are going in the right direction in terms of student numbers. It's good to see numbers going up rather than
apparently your school's
sideways.
popular. I mean, it's growing
Yeah, that's
as
good.
far as numbers.
growing. Make sure though, I guess in the renewal information, that you put in, what Ms. Sutton asked for with the scores of the students, the cohort that's been with you.
The first cohort.
And I'd love to have you send the Office of Charter Schools your first, IA or quarterly data, whatever it is that you.
We will be taking our first benchmarks next week, so we can definitely
You could
send
to
that.
Office of Charter
Yeah,
Schools.
that would be good.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next is Charlotte. Is it? Yeah, Charlotte Learning Academy. If you could just introduce yourself and tell us your position with the school, and then we could jump right in.
Sure. Good afternoon. Stacy Rose, principal.
Hi, I'm Andre Rose. I'm the secretary of the board.
Janice Gibson, assistant principal.
Karis Riddle, English for middle school. Amarilla Burnett, high school history teacher.
Kenna Blackman, board member.
Who's with the kids?
Juan Lascano, assistant principal.
Do y'all not have school today?
Yeah, no.
Michael Dodson, high school English.
Okay, we were all like.
Hi, I'm Matt Wall, board member and new treasurer.
Good afternoon. Monte Monroe, I'm vice chair of the board. I wanted to take a quick moment to again thank you and thank you for this opportunity for us to come before you today. As a board member, we understand why we're here. We know that we have not met the requirements for renewal. However, we are here because we are requesting a 3-year renewal because, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, thank you. Because we are in the process of implementing strategies and efforts, some of which were suggested by the Charter School Advisory Board back in November of last year, and others that we're implementing. And we are starting to see, significant changes, and we're just asking for your help and to continue in that path. At this time, I'll ask our principal, Stacy, to come up and explain a little more of those strategies in more detail. Thank you.
Good afternoon. One, I want to say our board chair is not here. She is a Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer and had to attend a funeral today, just because our other board members are here and we're only missing one. I just want to start off, I don't know how to use this. We didn't have these fancy things when I was a teacher. We had chalk. Okay, thanks. I just want to start off by going over a little bit of our school year data. We want to make sure we focus on the things that we are doing strong and the things, and last November, we had the opportunity to discuss with you our challenges. Those challenges are still real. It was just last November. There were a lot of suggestions by this board that were very helpful. There were some we were able to implement immediately because it was easy, and some we had to wait till the school year actually started up again. But looking at our data real quick, I know it's not the best data. I want you to first understand that we want our data to look better, but I also want to point out some highlights from the last school year. We did miss growth again by 1.2 points, the previous year by 0.5. It is very discouraging, but we continue to work. Our black students did make growth last year. Our economically disadvantaged students made growth last year. Our students with disabilities made growth last year. We did, and we're able to move our reading score from an F to a D. And our integrate math students, 6 through 8, made academic growth as well. As we discussed in November, our challenges are in our high school, math and science, and we're still seeing that in those results from 17-18. And like I said, as discussed in November, those were our challenges and still our challenges, but we have made some things to improve those. Go to the next one. So our targeted continuous low performing strategies that we discussed last November and things that we think are going to have a true impact this year and the years to come. The first thing was enrollment. We discussed how we were continuously enrolling students throughout the year. It was definitely suggested to stop that and to focus on the kids that we have in the beginning. When we left this board in November, the board decided we immediately cut off enrollment for the rest of that year, and we saw a change even then. But that's as far as we can do for last year. So this year we had targeted, I don't want to say targeted enrollment and sound wrong. We are open, whole open enrollment policy, but we open up spaces. So we only allowed up to 20 ninth graders, 10 10th graders, 10 11th graders, 10 12th graders, if that was the case, and we tried to get that enrollment in the lower grades like was suggested. It's gonna be a whole lot easier for us if we get the kids younger and then move them up through the ages, because as you see, I made this enrollment chart because it's just important to where we are, and last year was our first year in our new building, which is a huge thing for us. It changed everything being in this new space. But if you look at this chart, starting in 15-16, we had 87 returning students, 127 new students, 59% first-time students, with 83% coming in below grade level in reading and 85% coming in below grade level in math. And if you look at the trend, we were enrolling over 50% new students, almost 100% below grade level every year. And this is in those high school years, which is making a complete impact on our data. It's also hard to track the growth we're making or anything like that because it's just hard to look at. So we made the effort to make sure that we enroll students younger, trying to bring in more 6th graders, more 7th graders at that end so that we have them longer and can truly make that impact. And that data is on here for you to see. You'll see that we made that change this year, and for the 18-19 school year, only 34% of our students are new. We also made that decision, the board, not to grow as much so that we can get what we have under control before we try to continue to increase enrollment and grow more students. So this year we're at 263, which is about the same as last year, which is fine because we need to show improvement and make that growth first. I know that's a lot. Also, something that was definitely suggested last year was the North Carolina Math 1 Intervention Co-Teaching Program. And I had the opportunity to talk to Ms. Cacadelis, awesome. And, but we are year-round course school. So in November, it was too late and we couldn't do anything at the time. However, we did our research, and this year, all our 9th graders, Math 1 students, period, are enrolled in the co-teaching class. We also took the opportunity to move our 8th grade teacher who showed growth last year with the students. We moved her with them. So she is also the co-teacher of that group with this program. So we're really looking for great results from that, because we are very aware that our math and science high school is really what's driving our results at this time. And we laid out a whole thing of school improvement strategies, our strategic plan, and all of that. But I do want to make sure we take a moment to discuss our overall mission is making sure our kids are graduating and attending and have a post-secondary opportunity plan. So I would like Mr. Lascano to come up and address that, if that's okay at this time. Awesome.
Good afternoon. At Charlotte Learning Academy, our primary mission is rooted in preparing students for post-secondary opportunities. If you look at our data, Our 4-year graduation rate is currently at 73%, and our 5-year graduation rate is at 93.5%. Note that 93.5% is 1.3% higher than the county's 5-year graduation rate. Of the 73% students that were in that 4-year cohort, 7 of those students did not graduate in those 4 years. However, 5 of those students did decide to come back this year and are currently on track to graduate in the class of 2019. Over the past 2 years, we've really been focusing our attention on making sure that students do graduate, and we have had a total of 59 graduates. Of those 59 graduates, approximately 76% of those students are currently in a 2 or 4-year college, and 58% of those students are first-year generation college students, which we really take pride in. Outside of that, in addition, a lot of our students have been able to secure a lot of scholarships as well as awards from various colleges and universities across North Carolina and the nation. So this time I would like to bring up the other assistant principal, Ms. Janice Gibson, to discuss the Schools That Lead initiative.
Good afternoon. In addition to all of our other professional development opportunities, Charlotte Learning Academy has been accepted in the Schools That Lead program that was approved by the State Board of Education and the state legislature. There are currently 36 schools participating in this program and only 5 charter schools. We are 1 out of 5. There are 2 charter schools that are participating in our western region, and that other school is Lincoln Charter. Schools That Lead was developed to assist schools in North Carolina in utilizing improvement science as a means of assisting our school improvement efforts. Our principal and 3 teachers will participate in extensive professional development that is focused on learning how to improve student outcomes and building our capacity to lead others to do the same over the next 3 years. This network of educators will allow for us to receive well-documented strategies for improving student outcomes that were developed by fellow educators in the state. Dr. Dana Diesel Wallace, who is the founder of the program, submitted a letter regarding our acceptance. This program will allow for our bi-weekly coaching calls, additional data management tools, and curriculum of improvement science for our teachers. Schools That Lead is a 3-year program, and by design, it takes 3 years to implement and see success from these strategies. This 3-year program coincides with our 3-year renewal request. We will utilize the program along with our comprehensive plan, strategic plan, and the continuous improvement strategies discussed today to increase academic growth and success in our school. At this time, I would like to bring Stacey Rose back up for any additional questions.
How many 6th graders, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders do you have? How many middle school students do you have?
Oh, I left myself. Say it. I'm sorry. 45 6th graders, 32 7th graders, 35 8th graders. That's right now currently.
So it's like
and this year we only added 2 seniors, 5 juniors, 5 10th graders, and 20 9th graders, which is a huge difference from the previous years.
How many in the other grades?
I don't have that on me right now. I can shoot that right over to you.
Okay.
I just don't have it on me at this moment. I'm sorry.
What's your fund balance right now?
Right now, our fund balance is $40,000. We also had that chart up there as well. We know we started that first year off, it was really, really rough. We came up here before the board, we were on financial, we were non-compliant in that area. And we're actually told by the federal department or upstairs that we were not gonna be able to get out of that. And we came out of it immediately in the next school year, and we have had a fund balance ever since. And it has grown.
I mean, I've got.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm not sure where to start. I mean, financial, it's okay. I mean, 40,000 fund balance is still probably a little low.
I understand.
With the number of students that you have. But in your expenses, I guess the biggest thing I've got, is your proficiency level went down last year after you started implementing your plan.
Yes, sir.
You've been an F every year of your existence. You've only met growth 1 time, and that was in the first year that you got data. You've not met growth 3 years in a row. You've got Fs. It's not like you're nipping at the heels of the LEA. You're 42% behind last year. You're 40.3% behind the year before. You're 42.6% behind, you know, and then when you break down and you look at your, you know, I think your economically disadvantaged may be slightly higher than the LEA, the percentage-wise. I'm not sure what Charlotte Mech's economically disadvantaged population is, but it's pretty close by, but you're still sitting some, you know, 27 points behind among economically disadvantaged students.
That economically disadvantaged number is based on our direct cert only because we're a CEP school. So it's also not based on our kids who are reduced. So that number's not in there.
And I understand you may even have more economically disadvantaged students, but they're testing 26% proficient. They're 26% of them less are proficient.
I understand.
In the LEA. And I guess where I get to is that when do we say, okay, you know, we've had 5 years. We haven't broke out of the Fs yet. We're 40% behind the LEA. We're 27% behind the LEA in economically disadvantaged students. I mean, isn't it just time to just say, okay, we gave it a good go. We gave it the try. And, you know, I'm trying to find if there's one thing I can grasp onto that I could say, okay, we'll do a 3-year renewal. I can't find anything.
Okay.
I can't find anything to get us where we're just where we can get to that point where it's so clearly under our framework falls under a non-renewal or an assumption, and I just can't find anything that can push us up into that 3-year. I mean, maybe if you'd met growth last year, or maybe if you'd, you know, got a D last year, went up, but your proficiency went down. And your growth index went down.
Right.
And that was after you're implementing the plan. And so I'm just trying to find some little bit of crack of light in the darkness where I could say,
right,
okay, there's something we need to move forward to.
And I could sit here and make excuses of why that growth or the academic percentage went down last year. Last year, our Math 1 scores probably brought us down as we were slowly making some growth. We had our largest 9th grade class ever of 70-something students. That was a lot of Math 1 tests, and we knew that was our challenge, which is why we implemented the new enrollment strategies, because it's really hitting us. But I guess if you're gonna look at just these test scores as to who we are, then yes, I guess you're correct. But I think you need to give us the opportunity and look outside of that, because we are making a difference in our community. We are making a difference with our kids. We are the only charter school at this point, I believe, that is CEP, that provides lunch, breakfast, transportation, and does all that, and still will enroll high school kids. That is not alternative. I'll throw that in there too, that enrolls high school kids inside of the high school years. I know we're making a difference. I know the passion on this board and the passion in the staff is real. I know that we have graduates, and I think that's the big difference right there. They haven't dropped out. They might have previously dropped out and now given it another go. And we really do make a difference in our community. Our kids are happy. Our parents are happy. We work very hard. I don't want you to ever think that we're sitting back okay with these scores. We're not. We work very hard. The board works hard to try to change this. And we joined the program. We're doing whatever we can to get this to turn around. But we have a weird population too at 6 through 12. There is one other school in Charlotte Mech that has 6 through 12, and their scores are worse than ours. And if you're going to compare schools, it's hard to compare us to Providence or Audrey Kell and that big mix of things. To compare us to the CEP schools, we're right in there too with them.
What's the other charter school that's 612?
There isn't one.
What's the
in Charlotte Mech?
Charlotte Secondary.
Oh, Charlotte Secondary, yes, but they also, but not the same population.
It actually is now.
Close. Well, now okay.
It's changed a lot.
And that was just based on my able to see what data I could see from last year.
I guess my biggest problem here is the best year was their first year.
Yes.
2014, 15. When those kids just came out of Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, that was your highest proficiency year at 26.8, and you actually met growth that
yes,
year.
sir.
And every subsequent year,
you didn't even
for 16, 17, when there was a slight uptick on proficiency, every year after that, you've slid down.
Right.
I guess I'm having trouble understanding why those children wouldn't be better off back in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools rather than at Charlotte Learning Academy.
You want
With the small population that we currently have, I think a lot of those numbers have to do with the large enrollment that we did have in those previous years. We were bringing in a lot of students, and that's one thing that we did discuss in November, and that was really the bulk of the conversation that we had was regarding our enrollment and bringing in those students that did bring down those scores. So when we are bringing in 10 to 20, 30 plus students into a school environment, that does have a large impact on our test scores. But we are doing everything to get our students into colleges, and they're performing. Some students are performing better in college than they were performing at our school. Not to say that we weren't doing what we were supposed to do, but some of our students just perform better when they actually get out into the environment and take things under their own. I guess they hold themselves accountable for their own performance.
Stacy, if you guys, I'm having a hard time with 3 years too. But let's say if we were to agree to 1 year, what are you doing this year that would guarantee we're going to see it get better?
And I hate to keep, I think the enrollment practice is huge. I think we're going to already see a big difference there. I know we're doing a lot in the schools, so I know a lot of schools have discussed that we have our curriculum. We actually hired a curriculum person who is now here. So between myself, all of us are completely focused on the teachers, which is something we haven't always been able to focus on. When you increase your population by almost half, we're focused on culture, and we're focused on discipline, and we're focused on this. So this year will be a real true first year where we can really focus on our teachers and our classroom and our learning environment, which is a huge deal for us. And we're in an environment that is actually safe and conducive to learning, and it's a school, not a church, and that kind of thing. So we're doing a lot. We know we knew this was going to be a struggle when we came up. We know the challenges ahead of us. We're just asking for that time.
I'm not ever suggesting, if you're working in a school, it's hard.
It is hard.
This work is really, really, really hard. Turning around schools is very difficult, and I think that's why I'm kind of, more and more as we see schools that are consistently struggling, it's just very difficult to change. Like it's so hard to get better. I also think, and I'll just want to put this out in front of the board for thinking about all the data for next year. 1, data's not going to happen until October. 2, data's going to be lower. So anyone coming up and saying their data's going to be much better next year, I would beg to differ. And because we're not having a retest in math, so most schools retest, that's probably 3 to 5 points right there. Most schools, we have new math standards, so we have no idea what the test is going to be like. Usually when we have a new standard realignment, test numbers go down. Also, we've been told that reading assessment retest will be given online, which would probably, if kids take a paper pencil test and then give it online, that would probably lead them. All of those things indicate to me that data is going to go down. So schools that are, again, not your fault, but I think it's unlikely that schools are going to be able to
better in a year.
Go from it's just going to be harder. And I think the idea that we're going to see a huge jump in scores among even school that was here last, it's not likely, given the kind of structural issues surrounding data for next year. We're also not going to know the data until October, so it's just everything is going to be delayed. Just as a point of note, as we think about renewals for next year and whatnot.
Just a reminder, I'm keeping time in
Yep.
respect of the time that. So
Yeah,
that
we're
was our buzzer.
okay.
I just have, could
Yes,
you
ma'am.
explain again the way you revamped your enrollment process?
Yes, ma'am. So when we opened this year, we only opened certain numbers. Instead of giving it a free all, whoever applies gets in kind of thing, we had a certain number of spots per grade, especially for those high school grades.
You lessened the number at the top?
Yes, ma'am, and trying to move in and increase the number at the bottom.
Stacey, where did you move to?
We are now in the Park Expo.
The Park Expo.
Yes, ma'am, with plenty of room for growth, and just, it's so different.
I have one follow-up
Yes,
question real
ma'am.
quick. In talking about you guys taking a look at your enrollment policies.
Yes, ma'am.
What about your attrition rates? Have you done exit surveys and things? Is your attrition rates pretty high?
Our attrition was high, especially in the beginning, especially when we were in the church on where we were, because it just, especially for our lower grades. And well, I'm a mom. So your middle babies, your middle schoolers, you're looking for a comfortable place, a place that feels right and feels like a school. And it was really hard. So we kept losing a lot of those kids because it was a tight spot. It was just not conducive to learning. When we moved here, we saw a great deal of our middle schoolers. As you can tell on that form, we didn't even have to enroll as many, come back from last year because it's just a different vibe and feel.
What's your current enrollment?
260.
260.
So
Okay.
you stayed the same?
We stayed the same.
And that's what you're going to be paid on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we were aware of that when the decision was made. We're trying to focus on the kids that are, I know it's kind of the egg and chicken or however you want. We need the numbers for the budget, but we also need to focus on what we have and not worry about that at this point, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank
and for
you.
bringing your team today. Thank you very much. All right, next is Dillard.
That's the only right thing.
Let's see how we're going to get better. It's going to be hard next year. That's going to go down. I already told my board, I was like, don't expect miracles. Don't know what it's going to be like. We just don't know.
I know.
The new test may be easy.
It may be
The
easier.
standards are. they move
Good
so much
afternoon.
in fourth grade school.
Richard Knight, I'm the principal.
Hello, Danielle Baptiste, I'm the Operations Director.
Good afternoon, Thomas Smith, the Dean of Student Services.
Good afternoon. My name is Lassiter Wooten. I'm a member of the board of Dillard Academy Charter School, and I'm going to start us off today. You have our presentation in front of you, and this is just information that's been presented to us as board members. This year's theme is High Expectations in Academic Behavior and Character, and we have a mission and vision that supports all students becoming proficient by 2020, 80% of our students becoming proficient by 2020, and our mission is to positively provide a safe and quality education so we can excel and grow. We know that the reason we're here today is because we have fallen short of growth measures that would automatically have us at a 10-year renewal, and we'd like to address the changes that we've made in the school to combat that and change that. We're very proud of our scores last year to have a composite at 40.6%, which is an extreme increase from the 18.2 the year before. We attribute that to great leadership, teacher buy-in, and follow through and fidelity. We would like to have the board note that we grew from an F school with only 27 all the way up to 51, which we almost made a C last year, and we are so proud of our teachers, our staff, and mostly our children who just worked so hard last year to make that growth. We were in the top 5% of the state. We exceeded growth in all measurable areas, and even in our EC student population, they exceeded growth as well. There are just not enough of them for them to be a measurable category for us.
How far off from a C were you?
4 points. We were at 51, and the C is 55. And we also wanted to include this to show you a comparison for those schools around us. We know they're not the LEA school, the whole LEA, but they are the schools that serve the exact children that we serve. We are the blue line. We have, let me get my notes. That key is kind of hard to see. Dillard Academy is the blue. One of our schools, Carver Heights, is orange. Brogdon Middle is the gray, and Dillard Middle is the yellow. And those are the schools that children often choose to come to us. They're in those districts. They come to us from those districts. Say again? Yeah, from those schools. They would be in those schools if they weren't with us. And our goals for this coming school year, that slide's not on here, are to improve our school score to a C, to increase our composite from 40% to 55%, and to exceed growth for the 20th year. And I'm going to turn it over to our staff now.
Let's see where we are. So in order to continue this positive trajectory of growth, we have a school improvement plan that is in large part is a conglomeration of indicators that we have selected from NC STAR as a low-performing school in the past. We found that those research-based indicators really have helped us to improve, as well as we are an MTSS cohort school. This is our last year of MTSS cohort, and so all of those things that we've learned, we've put into our school improvement plan, and a simplified version rather than the very long version for you all is that we focus on people, pupils, and programs. Our staff is a very diverse staff. We try to expose our students to different cultures, different people, so that they can learn to be worldwide citizens. We focus on people because that's what's most important in making sure that we're able to follow through on any plans that we do. So we have looked at our hiring processes. We've revamped our hiring processes. We used both comprehensive needs assessment and consulting with Leaders Building Leaders to help us update our hiring process, make it a little bit more rigorous. We are now 100% licensed teachers in the classroom. In addition with hiring, we also have procured grant funding to ensure that we're giving our students small group and individualized instruction through having TAs and tutors come to the school during the day. We train our staff, so we want to make sure that our staff maintains the highest level of quality. So we support our staff members when they go to state level trainings. We have trainings here in our building, and we also have data-based training. So we look at data, see what the students' needs are, and then make sure that our training matches that in the classroom and in the school. We have also instituted a formal plan to replace, well, first to train, and if necessary, to replace any low-performing teachers. We try to retain the teachers, and we have always, and are especially now focused on growth. And so we focus our teacher bonuses on growth. Our principal has gotten an award for being in the top 5% in the state for growth last year. We provide awards for teachers and TAs based on student growth, based on classroom processes, and making sure that those new those new ideas that the principal has brought in are actually done with fidelity. And so our teachers get awarded based on their process data as well as student growth throughout the school year.
Thank you. Walt Disney once had a saying. He said that you can create and invent and dream of the greatest inventions, but it takes people to make it really happen. And we believe at Dillard Academy that no matter the programs we put in place or the teachers that we hire or train, unless our students are ready for learning, learning really won't happen. So we spend a great deal of time on our students. We talk about getting them ready for learning, and that is why we feed every child every morning. We do door-to-door transportation. We make sure that they are at school, and we take care of a lot of their basic needs. We've packed bags and sent home with them after school with food that will take care of them and sustain them until the very next day. We have a clothes closet that we get regular donations, and we try to take care of those basic needs, because unless those needs are taken care of, a child will not hear a thing that's going on in the classroom. So we are all about our students. We have improved and increased our enrollment this school year by 16% up from last year, and we are down 12% with our economically disadvantaged students. We have also increased with diversity. I know last year we talked with the board about bringing diversity into our school, and we have increased our diversity when it comes on to our Hispanic students and our Caucasian students. Those percentages have gone up as well. Some of the things that we do and offer extracurricular activity. We partner with the American Food Court to offer a healthy living class for all our students, kindergarten through 8th grade. And that is something that they can take as a lifelong lifelong lesson. We do have a one-to-one initiative when it comes on to technology for all our students, 2nd grade through to the 8th grade. And this one-to-one initiative really helps us to zero in on small group instructions that I'll talk about in a little while, and intervention time for all our students. We do offer sports program to all our students, and I am also trained in early childhood, and the research shares that children who get a chance to be in organized sports tend to do better academically as well. So we do try to get all our students as young as kindergartners to be in organized sports at some level or the other. And we do have a very vibrant visual arts program at the school that enters the county fair. And just yesterday we got word that we were all placed 1st and 2nd place with all our artwork presented there. Some of the services that we offer as well, we have an EC service on campus. We do our multi-tier system of support, comprehensive positive behavior program that is going really, really great. We have an on-site mental health agency that we brought on last year in light of the events that happened the year before. We saw the need for mental health services there on campus. So we've partnered with an organization to do that. Other things, we bring things to the students because they're unable to get it elsewhere. So we do dental, vision, hearing, all of that stuff is done right there at the school. Hot meals, as we spoke about, and also door-to-door transportation countywide. The third aspect of our improvement process is our programs. So we focus on people, we focus on our pupils, and then we focus on the programs that we implement to get them where they need to be. Over the past 2 years, mostly so last year, we have really adopted the Ready curriculum for core instructions. The Ready has been rated one of the top curriculum across the nation for math and reading. It's very rigorous, and we use that with fidelity in all our classrooms, kindergarten through 8th grade. We've adopted the research-proven iReady program, which is a computer adaptive program, and we use that for interventions and small groups. We have a STEM-based after-school program that caters to all our students who need after-school help, and we extend the school day using our after-school. We offer summer school, summer camp, intercession camps, and we partner with some local companies and agencies to offer that to the students. Some of the programs that we've changed or we've made changes to for high growth or high expectation is that we've added 115 more hours to our instructional day than required by the board. We are focused on data-based decision making, and because of such, we do our quarterly benchmarks. We are now participating in the NC check-ins for mathematics for all our tested grades. We do a daily intervention. Every classroom, every child gets a daily 35 to 45 minute intervention because we recognize our kids do learn a lot in small groups. So bringing that intervention time in has really, really worked for us in the past. And that's a good time for our tutors to come in, our specialists to come in, and we work with small kids, with small groups every day. We have a longer literacy block in our K2 classes to facilitate that reading foundation and development so they can progress in other grades. We've implemented a new dress code this year for the first time in the school's history, and that is going very well. We are priding ourselves on being the very best that we can. So that really helps us with developing that self-esteem.
I'm going to stop you there just because we can kind of see through. I just we'll leave time for questions here.
Yes, sir.
Looking back to last year, what are the two things that you implemented effectively that you can attribute to the exceptionally high growth scores and increase in performance?
Wonderful. First off is the curriculum that we use. We recognize that if students see the test or the end of grade exam as the hardest thing that they ever see in life, then they'll never do great on it. So because of that, we implemented rigor in our classrooms every single day. And the curriculum that we use, as I shared earlier, was rated one of the best curriculum nationwide for rigor and with Common Core. I forgot the exact site that I could refer you to, but hopefully I can get that and share that real soon. The second thing we do is we have intervention time for every student. So we use iReady as a diagnostic tool to find where our kids are. Then they're grouped accordingly, and those small groups, they do receive targeted instructions every day that is separate from core. So core we are teaching at a grade level. For example, a 5th grader might, for intervention, might need to go back and learn some of those missing phonetic skills. And that is what we do in intervention. We try to close that gap of learning. And those two things, I think, really, really worked wonders for us this past school year.
Great.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I think this board has every reason to be hopeful here. I mean, this exceeding growth, more than doubling proficiency, almost on a parity with Wayne County. I think we really have good reason to be hopeful here. I mean, talk about Shakespeare's Henry V and once more into the breach. These folks really have pushed themselves into the breach and seem to be doing the right thing to turn this around with these kids.
I agree with you, Alan. If you look at the difference between what we're seeing in these scores and what we saw in the school right before them, we come in and we put y'all through the ringer last year, and you came through, and I mean, we pushed, and you turn around and pushed, and you have a growth index of 5.96. You exceeded growth. You went from an F to a D. Basically, you did what you said your plan was going to do. And I said, I went back and looked at the minutes, and I said, it's going to be hard for me to vote for renewal unless you get up to a C. But I mean, I think I'm okay after hearing your plan and how you're moving. I'm okay with, but I'm not really ready to go higher than 3 years because I want to see this continue. You know, I would love to at the end of 3 years be bumping this up to a 10-year. But that's just, you know, that's where I'm at. That's where you fall in the framework, and I see a lot of goodness there. But I want to make sure it wasn't just a one-hit wonder too.
It would be so great if this could be sustained, and that this increase in proficiency and growth could be sustained.
Yes, sir. And we actually do have a plan in place for not just maintaining, but growing beyond where we are. We know that math scores will not be back in until later, and there's no retest. So because of that, our plan this year is to go hard with math. We have teachers who have won math grants since the beginning of the year that we can focus on mathematics education across the school. We are implementing math camps. We're using the NC check-ins. I know you mentioned not long ago that with the new test, we have no real idea of what it's going to look like. The NC check-ins are the next best thing. And we've decided to use that school-wide to expose our kids to that type of rigor that's about to come on the end of grade test. And not only use it to expose the kid, but so the teachers can have a deeper knowledge of what to expect in terms of preparing young minds for what is ahead. We are not about just preparing students for the next grade level. We're about preparing them for life.
And if I could just add to what Dr. Knight's saying here, this is one of the first times in Dillard Academy with my affiliation with them that I've seen teacher buy-in be so off the charts, and like it's a cultural change that we've had in the past 18 months at the school where teachers are like, now they've proven to themselves that they can do it, and they're ready to do it over and over and over again. And Dr. Knight is a big part of that. He sat back and kind of observed what needed to happen, and he formed a plan, but he brought everybody into that plan. Nobody feels like he's telling them what to do. He feels like we all feel like we're on the same bus together, and we're going in the same direction. And I think that's a huge piece for sustainability and continuing these kinds of success we've had.
All right, great, thank you. We're
Thank you
excited
for your
to see
time.
this sustain itself. Good work.
Nice work. Thank you.
All right. Next, Hiawassee Pony. It's getting warm here.
Hello, my name is Gideon Lee. I'm the new board chair.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. My name is Michael Richardson. I am the former chair of the board of directors of the charter school. I would like to share with you that we are very much aware of the lack of performance of the school. We have been working on implementing some strategies to change this since last year. And so there are some things in place that we believe that are going to make a great difference with this school as we go forward. And Mr. Bell, the administrator, will come and share with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. And I believe I'm working this right. Good afternoon again. I think that you've all read through our slides, and here we have our mission statement. And of course, we also going to start talking about the things you've already read. This part of our strategic plan was to be at $200,000 in our fund balance by the year 2019. Of course, we passed that, and as you see, you can see what our projected cash surplus is at the end of the year. We've also followed compliance. We have a $50,000 escrow account now as designated by the state. And as you see, our that should be 2018 at the bottom. There we've had 3 consecutive years where we've been compliant and have passed our audits. Academic performance, 2016, 17, and 18. We did not meet expected growth in 16, but the last 2 years we've met it. And as you see, we'll go through our indicators. There are a total of 6 slides. And on this slide, basically what we've done, just to put it in a nutshell, we've designed professional development and pedagogy because we found that this was the area where teachers were having struggles. We've signed an agreement, and they're already on board, and they've already started in the school, East Carolina instructional support system. They provided us instructional coaches. We also, as teachers, do lesson plans 2 weeks out. We've also formed these tier groups, which a lot of things are going to be redundant based upon the previous people who have spoken. We formed this at the beginning of the school using the iReady. We've also finished our class, our M class. We also do it IXL math. And so we form these tier groups to place students where they are so we can meet them where we are and we can basically give the adequate and necessary instruction for students. Okay. Matter of fact, we made a collaboration with Halifax County Schools. With Halifax County Schools, we looked at 2 of the elementary schools that were that had made good growth, if not tremendous growth, in the last 3 years. And what we've done, especially in the area of math, because that is our main area of weakness. As you've seen our scores as far as this past year, and that the math has always been the Achilles heel. And what we've gone back is that I went back through the data, and I looked at students over the last about 4 years. Our strongest school in the grade level in the school last year, these students were 60% in reading, 60% in science, no level 1s in either one of them. But when I looked at their math was only about 25%. So what I did, I went back and I followed their history. And they've increased in reading and in the science over the years since the 4th grade. But what we noticed is that it was a same constant about levels at the math, which meant there was a problem with the process in which, following the curriculum, because we know Common Core is following curriculum. So what we've done is that we've gone out, we also hired 2 instructional coaches on our own through our Indian Ed grant. They're supposed to be at school on Friday. And what we have is we told them we have an emphasis in our math. And so when we look at the math is everything that's falling around that. We're doing things like PLCs once a month. We're also doing professional development. And the central focus on a lot of schools will say, okay, you focus on reading. The reading is not the Achilles heel like the math. So we're focused on math and looking at we're trying to integrate it across the board. One of the things they're doing today while we're down here, and we have a professional work day today because we're celebrating Indigenous People Day at the school. We are a school that's primarily Native American based. And what
Sir,
they're working
how long have you took over in
I took over in really basically the 1st of August of last year.
First of all, okay.
And so what has happened is that today they're working with all our elected teachers so that they can sit down and come up and further develop our plan to integrate math in those courses like art, music, and PE. Because what we've expressed to everybody on the staff as a team, we said we need to do this thing as a group effort. Students can't just see math when they go into their math class. They have to see it across the board. When math becomes second nature to them, then they would do much better because of the real world relevance. Also, we're looking at doing twice a month, we're going to have data retreats, which we've already started that. And we're also doing classroom observation walkthroughs. We're doing them constantly on daily and weekly practices. And as I said, we're doing the PLCs. We're also doing professional development with the other schools such as Halifax County. We're also making sure that all our teachers go to their area curriculum state conferences, but also other PD. And then they have to bring it back, and they have to train the staff as well as the people from the ECU instructional support staff, which I've already sat down with her, and she's formulating the plan along with me and the staff as to how we're going to be doing a lot of the staff development. They're going to provide us with pedagogy. And as a matter of fact, she'll be back this week too to further that. But let me just go about the highlights, because you've seen the slides. I don't need to go through all those, okay? That one thing we need to know that our school has the lowest rate. I mean, I'm just being honest, you know, because I can see today, you know, that, look, you have your business to do just like we do, and that's getting back to the students. Our school is the lowest rate of out-of-school suspensions for any schools in the area. It's a safe school, and that's one of the reasons why parents say they send their children there. Our technology now, we do have a one-to-one initiative because of the aspirations and the motivation of our IT person who has gone out with the support of the State Department and of people who have donated services to now where we have enough Chromebooks and other technology where every student can have, all the way from kindergarten through the 12th grade. The school also assists people in the community, students, with book bags, writing materials, flash drives, and other materials that they need. The parents with children who have disabilities seek to enroll them in our school because of all the schools in the area, especially elementary and middle. They see our school as being the one that has been the most positive and the most successful in educating their students. I just recently had a parent to come by to say that he brought his daughter to the school in 5th grade. She's in 8th grade now. He said that she could not even read and that she was not getting the service in the adjacent elementary school. He said now his daughter can sit down and she can read the newspaper to him without any problem. And that's been within 2 years of being at the school. Those numbers in accountability, when I saw them the other day from the previous year, said we were at something like 14.9% students with disabilities. I beg to differ. We had 31 children out of 135 last year at this time that were in, that labor as children with disability. Most of them were intellectual disabilities, and a few of them were speech, and some of them were both. This year we have 34 out of 157 students. Now let me tell you something about this. Last year we had 135 students when I stood before you. This year we have 157 students as of Friday. One of the reasons for that, several parents had removed their children from the school because they felt that things were, you know, not as they wanted. But once they found out that I was back there, especially by this past spring, they started bringing their children back. The reason why, over half of the parents, I taught them in high school. And they said the high standard that I set for them and the things that I mandated that they must do. Also, the interaction that I had with their parents was what made them bring their children back there. Because they know with me that I'm not going to make a lot of promises and things that I can't do, but they know I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to be fair to everybody, and I'm going to give their children just as much attention to everybody else.
So your number now is 157?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
how many do you have in high school?
In high school, 57. We have 13 in the 9th grade. We have 15 in the 10th, 18 in the 11, in 11 and 4 is 4. We can't go any more than 18 children in a grade level because of the charter, the way it was written up. And we have 9 in the 12th grade. I can remember the numbers because those aren't big numbers. They're easy to remember for the most part. And because I was primarily a high school teacher, I do a little things. I mean, we're doing things differently too because I'm really the first administrator they've had pretty much who's had a lot of experience in high school. And we're just doing things this year to make just good sound sense. Like, for instance, we were talking about the interventions. We hired teacher assistants, basically with degrees, that they would come in, and some retired teachers. They're doing interventions with the students now. And one of them is a retired math teacher. The instructional coach we were talking about, we systematically went through interviews, and the 2 we've designated, one has had 4 years experience as an instructional coach for hire. The other one has 6 years as a principal, 6 years in Chatham County. Now, I say when you hear somebody stay somewhere 6 years and they've been that successful to be maintained, they know something to be able to help you, okay? So we're not just hiring people just to be filling slots. We're hiring people that show that they have a proven record. And our fund balance, we have 10 students over what we were projected last year. And so our projection was on 145. By the 20th day, we had 155 students. And based upon the projection, when I put it in the Excel spreadsheet and calculator, at the end of the year, our excess or surplus fund balance will be $140,000 over. Now, what he's saying, well, that's a lot of money, but it's money that's there. Now, we can't let that money sit there. We have to spend that money on what the children need now, not trying to save it and hold it up to the end. We're going to be back doing some other things with the students as far as resources and human personnel. And also, we just started last week, and hadn't had one in about 3 years. We started our parent-teacher organization. We call it the PTT, the parent-teacher team, because we know the community is a vital part of this. And without the community support, you can't get student achievement to increase. That's all I have.
Great.
Questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been on the board since 2014, I believe is when I initially came on. And you guys have been before us every single year.
I know.
After the end of the 15-16 cycle, when the school came before us, they had a new leader. It was a lady, I can't remember her name right now off the bat. And she made us all these promises. And it actually, last year, the performance grade went up a little bit. When I say last year, 16, 17. Performance grade went up, growth was met. And then you slid back down again for 17, 18. What is it that's going to make a difference for the school?
Well, one of the things is this year we do have the support in place now. As saying that the instructional coaches, and we're doing more close attention to the teachers in the classroom and with the assistance they need. We also had a couple of students, and we had to end up going to court 3 times, but that still didn't help. We have some students that we could not get to attend school. We went through the court system and the Department of Social Services, and we're still not able to get those students to come to school. 2 of those students were what caused us to go from a D to an F, because they came to school 6 days and 4 days, and we could not drop them from the rows because they were under 16 years old. And that has been a problem with us with some of the students.
Allow me to address that also, please. Because you mentioned the year 2014, and I began to take interest in the school in 2014 when I saw the reports. It was very alarming to me, the poor performance. And I began to attend the meetings and to try and understand what was going on, because I thought that as a charter school we should be doing better. There were some steps taken. We did have a new administrator to come in because the other administrator had left. And on paperwork and through the interview, it appeared that that administrator was going to do a great job for us. But we saw that that was not happening. There was some information that was being given to the board of directors throughout the year that led us to believe that our grades were going to be much better than they were. That did not happen, but in the process, and I'm going to be careful about what I say because I don't want to libel myself, but came to the realization that there were some evaluations that were rated much higher than they should have been. And Not only that, but when we looked at it, what was actually taking place, and listening to the staff as you hear things and listen to the community, we found out that students were being driven away by some of the people that were in place there, not only teachers, but students. And we realized that we had to make some changes. We tried to make sure that we maintained the stability of the school in the middle of the school year, but we realized there had to be some changes. And to be able to get Mr. Bell in as the administrator with his experience, it was a great plus. He continued to rise to the top of everyone that was interviewed in the process. And I do know that he had a great success rate with the schools in Warren County. And we are very fortunate to have him there. He has a passion for education. He has a passion for the people. And I share that same passion, and the board shares that passion. And we're looking forward to it. I believe that we are really going to have some positive changes in here. And my thing is I said this to the board, that, you know, let's get ourselves in order here, so that if this school is closed, that we are the ones to make the decision to close it, not somebody in Raleigh. Because I think that that's that we should look at it from that way, because we really want to educate our students. And I have 2 grandchildren there now, and I really want them to get a good education.
Great. I think the key with Halawassaponi and Mr. Bell, is it Mr. Bell?
Yes.
You know, I think you know, obviously the school is still an F, but honestly, I think the MET growth is as important, if not more important.
And as I said, those numbers as far as the accountability showed students with disabilities, it was actually 22.3%. when I went back and put in, because that number is supposed to be 31, it's supposed to be 22.3, not 14.9. This year, out of 155 students, as of when we went through the other week before Friday, we had 34, and we have 2 more students on the list that are transferring in from the neighboring elementary school, which would put us at 36 students out of 100, and as of the day, 57 that have disabilities.
Okay.
I remember this school very well, just because, you know, we've talked to y'all a few times, and remember when you first came in 13-14 was a renewal year.
Yes, sir.
And we gave you 1 year.
Yes, sir.
And y'all knocked it out of the park. In that 1 year, exceeded growth, got your performance grade up, and so we gave you 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And you've met growth 2 out of those 3 years.
Yes, sir.
So you're continually low performing.
Yes, sir.
And going to be continuing low performing next year, no matter what you do this year, just because your last 2 years were continuing forward low performing. So, I mean, I think, you know, under the rubric or the framework that we generally use, the recommendation guidelines, it looks like about a 3-year renewal.
Sir, I'll tell you what, sir, if you give us a 3-year renewal, I can promise you we will increase.
I believe you. I just think it's got to be sustained, and that's the same for all these schools. I think
it will. I don't make hollow promises, sir.
Well, and at some point, principals move on. See, and I think that's what we're seeing this pattern with a number of schools. Not all of them, but it's.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing to that, really quick?
Yeah.
Except for one principal that was there about 5 years ago, I'm the only one that's been there probably since the original principal that's from the area. As I said, I taught over half of the students in the high school that are parents.
So you're
I'm
not
there.
planning on going anywhere?
No, sir. I tell you what, after I leave there, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to where you want to go, and that's called retirement. I'm there. I live in Roanoke Rapids. I can get to school in 25 minutes every morning. I pay for my house. I'll be there.
Mr. Bell, if I could ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Could this board kind of be assured that you're going to at least meet or exceed growth and maybe match performance for the county schools this coming year?
Yes, sir. And that's said that last year, I can tell you, one of the big issues was our money issue. And we got that under control. And I'll say we, because I didn't do it by myself. As you see that surplus there, that we're healthy financially. This year, the focus has to be in the academics, and especially math. And as I said, we have 2 instructional coaches coming on with a true record of success. And yes, sir, academics first, and we will get there.
So leaving aside the money issue, we can expect an increase in proficiency?
Yes, sir. If you went back and looked.
Careful with promising increases in proficiency, people.
No, it won't, look, let's put it this way, it won't be a promise, that's a fact.
All right.
Yes.
Just be careful.
Now, I'm tell you what, it's better to try and be careful as possible, but if you had to get a couple of scratches on the way, so be it.
All right, Mr. Bell. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is Kip Halifax College Prep. Moving right along.
And Mr. Quigley, I will be abstaining from discussion.
Thank you. The record show Miss Sutton recused herself.
Seems kind of confident.
I give him 3. Doing a whole lot better in the county.
Yeah. That's why Can we get the county?
Good afternoon. I'm Gail Worthington, member of KIPP Eastern North Carolina Board.
I'm Mary Brown, member of KIPP Eastern North Carolina Board.
And my name is Doug Kahn, and I'm on the board as well. Thank you.
My name is Marla Wilkins. I'm the founding school leader for KIPP Halifax College Prep.
My name is Emily Dwight. I'm the founding primary school leader at KIPP Halifax Primary. And I have to admit, if this were my kindergarten classroom, I would ask all of you to stand up and take a stretch right now. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us today. As you can see by looking at the results in front of you, our children have limitless potential. We're in a county that needs another option. It's one of the most racially and economically segregated areas of our state. And we are here to provide children with a better option, not only to receive a great education, but to prove what's possible for all children in the state of North Carolina, particularly an underserved area like ours. You can see from our slides the extra steps that we take to make sure that we're serving our target population. And you can see from our data that we have had success, but that last year we faltered. And we're here to ask for your confidence and support as we share a plan for where we're going to move forward and make sure that our students receive the education that they deserve.
The first piece of data that I would like to highlight is the data of our founding class of 5th graders 4 years later, last year in 8th grade. As you can see, as 8th graders, that we were 72%, 68% in Math 1. Our kids do receive high school courses in 8th grade, and they also performed at 79% in science. 100% of our 8th graders last year and this year actually take Math 1 as in 8th grade. Last year, as Emily mentioned, we did have some challenges. Some of the challenges that we faced was the construction of our new facility. It is a beautiful facility that sits out on the cotton field, and I invite all of you to visit us at some point. But we really moved into the facility over a weekend. We literally got the certificate of occupancy September 1st, and we moved in over Labor Day weekend. That was some of the challenges that we faced last year. We also added last year kindergartner and 8th grade. We adopted a new math curriculum, and we started the school year with a teacher having to leave, moving to another grade level, and then one of our Teach for America teachers left. Even though we had those growing pains, we pushed really, really hard. And as you can see with the data, we were within 1 point of making the C rating that for our overall performance.
I'm going to ask a question, but I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask our legal team, because I'm just trying to grasp this in my head. So the statute, when it comes to renewal, says it will be 10 years unless these certain things happen. One of those things is that their performance has not been comparable to the LEAs over the last 3 years. Well, that's not the case here. They have exceeded in 2 of the last 3, and then they're definitely comparable. They were within 1 point of the LEA. So in the last 3 years, I mean, 11.6%, 12.4%, and then going back 3 years, negative 0.7. So they've been comparable all those years. So it says it'd be 10 years. But then you read on down, and it says if they're continually low performing, which they are because they've been a D and not met growth, and a D and met growth 2 of the last 3 years, that then we are authorized to terminate or not renew the school. So I guess the question that I have, and maybe I'm reading more into this than I should, is our option with this school either a 10-year renewal or a non-renewal? Is there any middle ground that we have here? Because is there a way, because if we renew them, it has to be at 10 years, but if we say because they're continually low performing, then we're authorized to not renew, but we're not authorized to renew at a lower year than 10, because the statute says 10 unless they have. See how I'm...
Yeah, Mr. Walker, you sent us you sent a heads up that you would have a legal question. I perhaps didn't appreciate the nuance of this with your...
Because if it's just up to me, and I don't know if that's the case or not,
It's not just up to you.
This is a 10-year statute. I mean, this is a 10-year renewal. I mean, in my mind, I mean, it's the highest performing school in the county. You know, it's well above the rest. Yes, they didn't meet growth last year, and their grade dropped just a little bit. But, you know, I'm just saying, I'm just asking legally, are we in some kind of pickle? And maybe I should have asked in closed session.
Sure, and you have previewed my response to your question. I think there is an interpretation question that legal will look at to provide the CSAB with options that wouldn't just be, you know, with respect to this particular school, but for application of the statute. Okay. Is that fair? And we can get that back to you tomorrow.
And that's fine. I mean, that's fine. And that's only if somebody else in here wants to do less than a 10, because I'm just fine with doing a 10 and telling them to sit down.
I don't understand how this is any different than any other. Why wouldn't we be able to consider anything in the middle?
Well, because the statute says that if they've been comparable to the LEA for the last 3 years, don't have financial issues, and are otherwise in compliance, then they shall receive a 10-year renewal. Right? But
right.
The statute also says that if they are continually low performing, which they are, that we are authorized to not renew them. So that's where my tension is.
A whole bunch of them that are continually low performing. We're not talking about not renewing all of them. I don't understand.
Right. But that's because they don't fall within the automatic 10 years.
And let me just
authorized to give them less than a 10-year. On this one, we're not authorized to give them less than a 10-year except for a non-renewal.
Right.
And I think this is this weird situation that has never happened before, that where they fall either, it just looks like to me it's either a 0 or a 10. And maybe I'm making it more complex than it should, but I'm just trying
to.
I think that's what
I think that, I mean, I think the main point is, this slide behind us really says volumes about the impact that the school's having.
Yeah.
I'm most interested in like, what's like the 2 to 3 things that you think contributed to the low growth score last year, like with most significant impact, and then like how are we mitigating those this year? And
absolutely, I think a lot has to be said for us moving from a small 7,000 square foot church into this huge 85,000 square foot building. There were some things lost in that, and also us not even being able to start the year inside our new facility. We literally moved in over a weekend. Staffing has honestly is a problem, and so having teachers who decide to do this incredibly hard work, but then don't realize how hard it is, and make a decision to leave our students. I would say those are 2 mitigating factors for our low growth, and well, actually missing it by 1 point is the way I like to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that have you just really like broken it down and looked at kids that grew a lot last year? Did they just grow less this year, or have you looked at it kid by kid and whatnot?
We definitely have looked at it kid by kid. Even one of the focus areas this year is to start student data notebooks for each individual kid so that they own their data. And so they also are able to sit and have conversations with staff about that, but also their parents.
Yeah, I mean, the school is outperforming the district by a significant margin.
Yeah.
And is providing an option and aggressively trying to serve low-income children and students that most need a strong school option. Also, I think what's noticeably different about some other schools that we've seen, there is not another year that they haven't met growth, right? So I think with the other ones, we're seeing schools that have not met growth, then they might not meet, then they meet, then they don't meet, or they just don't meet. I believe that this is going to be an anomaly, and obviously we'll discuss kind of the options as Stephen is conferring with legal.
I think he can explain.
Sure.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead? Or,
Yeah, I mean, if you all look at 115C 218.6, you'll see those reasons where this board and the state board have to grant a 10-year renewal, right? I mean, you shall be given a 10-year renewal unless those certain criteria that Mr. Walker referenced are not met. If one looks at 115C 218.95, this is the causes for non-renewal or termination. This is a permissive statute where the state board may terminate, not renew or seek applicants. So it's permissive for this Charter School Advisory Board to make a recommendation to the board. It doesn't set, for example, up or out if you're 3 years continually low performing. You have, you as the advisory board and the state board have the ability to make some recommendations. If you look at B1, for example, it talks about, if continual low performance is the reason for the state board to terminate, there are certain conditions upon that as well. So there is a unique situation here. Legal will follow up, but I just wanted to clarify the point on those two statutes.
Okay. What would you say? You kind of went into this somewhat in the PowerPoint and in the earlier, just like one or two things that maybe you're winning on this year that you think are going to make an impact, and one or two challenges that you're sorting through right now.
Absolutely. I think one of the great things that we're doing is our 5-year academic plan, where we meet weekly with teachers about data and tracking that data. And we have one-on-ones with teachers. We also have once a week content teams where all the math teachers are sitting in the room, and we're doing lesson and module internalizations to make sure that teachers grow their craft.
We're also drawing on the expertise of our region. We have leaders in-house and who travel to our school weekly to help support our folks to grow their own content expertise and support in some of our areas where last year we had the faltering, and so we're paying special attention to that with our own eyes and getting outside eyes in more frequently to make sure that we're on track to make the growth our students need to.
Mm-hmm.
What about challenges? What are you struggling with right now that you need to get better in the next 60 days? Or
finding qualified talent to move to rural eastern North Carolina.
I'm sure that's a forever challenge.
Yeah. So that being a challenge of how can we get talent to invest in our kids and love our kids and still live in our area.
Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, I think that idea of proving what's possible is still very real, particularly in Halifax County. I feel really fortunate to join Marlowe and be able to invite our families and their children at a much younger age to make school a place where you're known and valued and loved for who you are, you matter, and redefining that for some of our families for whom school is not a place that's what that meant when they came through. And so I think continuing to get that investment from our staff, continuing to get that investment from our family who want to believe, and we know that we have to show up and help them through it.
What about more granularly, like curricularly or culturally?
So the point you raised earlier about wit and wisdom, about Eureka, I think we're using really rigorous texts and the scaffolding required for that for both our teachers and our staff. To Marlo's point, some of our strongest staff are young folks who we've talked into the ideals, and so we need to both teach our children and teach our teachers. And so we're really trying to draw on that expertise to keep them inspired, but also make them better informed so that they don't have to learn the hard way and have a learning year with our kids, that we're able to get better faster, as the title of the book goes.
Does anybody have, I have one more question, but does anybody else? You good? Talk to us a little bit more about, you said like the regional support, you know, I know there was a slide about that, but I'm just interested because, you know, KIPP E&C is something that has grown over time organically in North Carolina, and I'm curious like what that looks like, you know, as we have more CMOs, and what do CMOs do when a school maybe has a year that steps back in terms of data, and what does that investment look like from the region?
Sure, I will start. I will give you an example of Brett Noble, who is an award-winning high school teacher and taught for many years in our high school. He is now our curriculum coach for English and language arts. So he comes in once weekly right into our school and meets with our ELA teachers and our humanities teachers, basically going through every single solitary thing that they're going to teach next week. They're going through teach backs, what we call them, and he actually has teachers stand up and actually teach a portion of a lesson. Again, to Emily's point of getting people better.
Great. All right, other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Next is United Community School.
Hello, I'm Erica Hedgepeth. I'm the Executive Director of United Community School.
Good afternoon. I'm Antonio Wilder. I am Board of Directory Treasurer.
Hello, I'm Timothy Hedgepeth. I'm the Director of Operations.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Hall. I'm the Board Chair for United Community School. On the behalf of our school board, parents, faculty, and staff, and students, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and present our case to you. As you're aware, we're performing well in compliance with finance areas. Today, we're here to share our action plan to improve our academic scores. And our hope that you will consider recommending renewing our charter with the board. So today, I'm going to have Ms. Erica come before you and talk about our improvement process.
I would like to start by just sharing who we are as a school. We opened in August of 2014 with kindergarten through second grades, and we have been adding one grade level every year. We are now a school of kindergarten through sixth grades. We have 10 classes and 213 students. We implement the basic school model, which is based on the 4 founding principles that we nickname the 4 C's, which stand for community, curriculum, climate, and character. So for community, our classrooms are connected like a community. Our students also go out into the community to use community as a classroom. We do have a partnership with a nature center, with UNC Charlotte, which is right across the street from our campus. Different departments work with training our teachers and providing different services for our students. Our curriculum is very hands-on, engaging, and also interdisciplinary. So when teachers are teaching math, they may incorporate writing or reading and so on. Our climate is very nurturing and positive and student-friendly. And then under character, our students are our teachers are role models. All the staff in our building are role models for our students. And every morning, every classroom participates in character ed during the morning meeting time to help with our implement our positive nurturing environment. We are also an A-plus school in the A-plus Schools of North Carolina Network, which is an arts-based program. We have learned how to integrate arts with the core subjects. And this is our second year being part of that network. And we are also very student-centered. Most importantly, we are student-centered. So at the school board level, at the administrative level, and at the classroom level, all the adults are making decisions in the best interest of the students. These are some of the initiatives that we implemented last school year as part of our school improvement plan. We administered the M-Class Reading 3D assessment 3 times a year. Last year we adopted an online intervention tool called Exact Path for reading and math. We added technology, which we hadn't focused on heavily before. So we had 2 sets of class sets of Chromebooks, Google Chromebooks for our students. We initiated a partnership with UNC Charlotte's Play Therapy Department. Teachers, in addition to sending out weekly newsletters and emails to parents, we also added teacher web pages, which included homework tips and curriculum information so that parents could access at any time. We became an A-plus school, arts-based school last school year. We switched our math curriculum to Eureka Math. Previously, we had incorporated investigations math, and we administered mock end-of-grade assessments for our 3rd through 5th graders.
You know, you've got, I'm looking at your data, and you've got something that I've never seen before.
What's that?
And I want you to try to explain it to me.
Okay.
Your EC population has a higher proficiency score than your school.
Mm-hmm.
So the EC students are bringing up your proficiency. I'm trying to figure out how do you have your EC program going at that clip, but then have your non-EC students are pulling down the proficiency scores?
Well, our EC students do receive those services where they have a lower ratio. It's usually a group of 3 to 6 students at a time. In our regular classes, we have up to 24 students with 1 teacher, 1 teaching partner. So it's a little bit of a higher ratio. And also our non-EC students, a good amount of them probably are eligible for services. So some of them we've tested and they were maybe 1 point away from being placed into the program, but they still struggle. We see signs of that look similar to our students with learning disabilities, and they just aren't eligible for the program. So that's probably, the non-EC students are not completely general ed. They do have 504s and some have trauma. A lot of their characteristics mimic the students with disabilities.
Yeah, I mean, I just, looking at it, you're 26% proficient above the county with EC students. I mean, it's like if that's all I saw, I would be like, well, they're going to be like 40% above the county. I mean, they're going to be, they're going to be batting 1,000. And so I guess that's just where, how do you make some of that success that you're having with EC students? I mean, being, you're much higher than you're 26% higher than the state, 26.5% higher than your county with EC student performance. How can you make that translate into some success in your general student population?
Well, we are trying to do that. We have a phenomenal exceptional children's team. We have our assistant director has an EC background. She was our coordinator before, and now we have another person who is our EC coordinator. We have a high amount of staff. The ratio for EC staff compared to general ed staff is just much higher. And one of the people on that team is national board certified. So I think that kind of plays a big part into it.
What's your fund balance?
Our fund balance?
That was non sequitur.
70,000.
70,000? Yeah, I'm just,
Non sequitur.
I don't, what's that?
That's a non sequitur.
It was not a non sequitur. I was thinking, do they have the money to be able to basically make their entire school like an EC program? Because obviously they know how to do EC, but 70,000 is not going to do it.
And that's
I guess I just never see. I guess my
You made
mind's
that
just
leap,
blown. I've never seen
EC scores.
the EC scores that are that high. I mean, they may be the highest EC performing school in the state. I don't know.
What is the population,
You got
what's the
20
number?
You got 22%.
Test, but we don't know how many.
I'm sorry, the number for what?
The number that actually tested,
Um,
that were ECs.
Yeah. How many students with disabilities are in third through fifth?
39, 37 to 39 students.
That are in third through fifth?
Yes. We just added 6th grade this year.
So you're adding middle school?
Yes.
So are you the primary instructional leader?
Yes.
How's Zern going?
It's going great. We're getting good feedback. Last year we had Exact Path. We had just implemented that, and we decided to replace it with Zern because Zern is actually aligned to our current math curriculum, which is Eureka Math, formerly Engage New York. So the teachers are very happy with that because the lessons that when they do the mini lessons with the Eureka program, and they immediately break into small groups after the mini lesson, they can put one student group on the Zern program and be able to assign lessons that match. Whereas last year with the Exact Path math program, it didn't match. It was more like a diagnostic program that was meeting kids where they were, but not necessarily what they were learning as part of their daily math instruction.
So are you teaching the Zern lessons with
No,
parallel?
the Zern is it's basically Eureka Math online, but it's called Zern. The curriculum, the online curriculum we had before was just an online curriculum that we researched and found and we implemented, but it just didn't match the math instruction. So teachers did give us feedback about that, saying, I'm teaching this concept, but at a 4th grade level, but then when they got on Exact Path last year, the students might be working on kindergarten skills because that's where they placed, according to the diagnostic. So it's correlated now. It's making more sense.
Can I go back to my previous question? Your students with disabilities, you have about 39 students, but how many of those fell in the 3-5 last year that were actually tested?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that to you even today, even in a few minutes.
Okay, so just kind of going back to your presentation, what would you say are like the two things that you're winning on that you think are really important to drive the instructional results right now?
One thing that is new this year is we have revised our grading system. In the past, we had a more subjective scoring system where we gave letters, not the traditional letter grades because of the stigma attached to being a C student or a D student or an F student. So we had grades like P, which stood for progressing, and D, which stands for develop. And it was not very clear to parents and also students. So there wasn't a sense of urgency or pressure. So we now have a numeric grading system that matches the local district. So we have for 4s, which are 90 to 100%, 3s, 80 to 89%, and so on. And that is making a big difference. And that's kindergarten through 6th grade being implemented. So teachers are able to share with parents exactly where the kid is ranking. And then in upper grades, the teachers are holding weekly after school sessions where they can retest or get extra help. We just have more feedback from parents because they recognize a number versus those letters that we made up.
Okay.
And then I would say being part of the A+ network is helping us tremendously. because our school was founded on the philosophy of if you get kids excited about learning and engaged in the instruction, they're going to pay attention, they're going to be happy to be there, they're going to retain more information, and ultimately the success rate will be higher. And so being an A+ school, it just it exemplifies that same philosophy. So our students are excited about coming to school each day, K through 6, not just the little ones. My assistant director and I are outside every morning opening doors and greeting families, and we have so many students that skip into school or run into school to meet up with their friends. They're not crying to come to school or saying they want to stay home and watch TV. There's so much fun in our classrooms that that's getting them excited about being there, and it's just having a good impact on the atmosphere in the classrooms.
How many 6th graders do you have now?
We have 26, I believe we have 26 6th graders.
So,
we have a life skills class this year for our students for like the self-contained students, but we call it life skills class. So some of those 6th graders actually go to the life skills class. So it's not technically 26 students in the general ed classroom. It's more like 23 or 24.
Okay. Other questions that people have? What's something that you're struggling with right now? So I know our EC population is high, but they are doing well. However, there are still students, like I said before, who kind of mimic some of the students that we have in the EC program, and whether they are several grade levels behind, and we have to catch them up. And I have I forgot to even use my slides, but one of the slides that I have just shows that the students, let me just go to it. We have students that are coming to us this year, right here. 71% are not proficient in reading based on last year's end of grade scores, and then for the younger ones, this year's M-Class beginning of year assessment, 71% are not proficient in reading. Only 29% are. So we are having to meet them where they are, of course, and implement all of our model and get them growing. And it doesn't necessarily mean getting on grade level. The next slide just shows some of the students last year. The green is students who were new to 2nd grade last year and are now, and the blue shows that they are now, where they are now as 3rd graders. So they were new to our school, they were below grade level or on, but we grew them. They all made growth. So our students are making growth, but if they come to us in 2nd grade, which some did, there's one student specifically who came to us, he was a C, which is a kindergarten level, and this year he tested on a J, which is a 2nd grade level. So he made 2 years of growth in 1 year. We have another student who did come on grade level. She was a J, which is 2nd grade level, and now at the beginning of 3rd grade, she's on a 4th grade level. She's at a level R. So we're growing our students, but it doesn't necessarily always mean that they're achieving grade level status by the end of the year, because we have to catch so many up 2 or 3 years worth in 1 year. And I think that because our EC program is so successful, our students with disabilities are really thriving at our school, that word of mouth causes us to have a lot more students with disabilities interested. And then also our at-risk students who benefit from our free play therapy services that are provided through the UNC Charlotte partnership and our Watchdogs program, and just all the excitement that is going on at our school. I think we kind of have a reputation for, they can fix my kid. And so we get students that are a lot are below grade level, and they do grow. They're not stagnant, but we start all over each school year. So that's what's happening.
May I ask a question? All of these that are below grade level, are those that do not speak a 2nd language?
No. And actually, our students, last year we had...
Okay.
No, yeah, last year we had, I think, 76% of student ELL learners or proficient. So it's not them.
So they're not learning if they're in another school, not learning to read until they come to you. Basically,
Yes,
is what you're
basically.
saying. From
This year-
whatever school they've been in, they're not learning to read.
Right, a lot of them, yes. So, like I said, this year 71%, this is K through 6th grade. 71% of those new students aren't proficient. They're either 1 to 3 grade levels behind. 50% of our first graders that are new to us were on an RB reading level, which is that's when you get to kindergarten, you're on RB. So they're basically in a pre-K level entering first grade. So we have to build those foundational skills and fill in that gap. And by the end of first grade, if they are at a middle of first grade level, which is not on grade level, but it's a year and a half of growth, and which will likely happen, but then those students have to, it's just we're playing the catch-up game constantly.
Yeah, I just think it's just a shame when kids come to you from the regular school system and they're so far behind. That's all I have to say about that. Okay. Yeah.
What is the attrition rate each year? Because I'm looking at this slide that says USC bred students with your kids last year who tested that were your inaugural kindergartners. They were 87% proficient in reading, 73% proficient in math. So I would expect to see the overall GLP a little higher, unless this population is very small.
These are this year's 4th graders. They've been with us, just the ones who have been with us since kindergarten. This is their data.
What's your end there? How many?
How many of those kids were with you since kindergarten?
Right. I should have put it on the slide. I didn't put it on the slide. I used those numbers to get the percentage, so I can give that to you in just a few minutes.
It's a wild guess. I mean, you only have 197 kids. So.
Mm-hmm. This is coming from only 2 4th grade classes, and total we have about 44, but that's not all 44 because some of them are new.
So you think about 35 maybe?
Sure.
I mean,
mathematically that doesn't make sense.
No, I know. That's why I said approximately. It's the little squiggly equal sign in front of it. I mean,
Okay, I'm being corrected. That is between 15 to 20 students.
15 to 20.
well,
Yeah.
it's still approximately 35.
Okay.
Kind of stretching it there.
Are you a math teacher?
There's a reason I'm not. Lawyers just divide by 3.
I just wanted to make the point that we did experience quite a bit of attrition when we moved across the city. So we started our first 2 years, 2 or 3 years, was it 3 years? 2 years on the east side of Charlotte, and then we moved to the north side of Charlotte. And that alone, we don't offer transportation, and over time that is, I know there's a transportation grant out there now. We're going to start exploring that, but over time that just became difficult for parents. So I just wanted to.
So you moved last year. Was
Money's
your first
gone,
year?
isn't it?
Is it done? Okay, all right. Sorry.
Very close.
Do you sorry, I missed that. Do you transport students?
No, sir. We don't offer like a lunch program or transportation. And I think that just became kind of difficult for some parents.
Okay.
The good thing is that all the students that we have, because it's so tough, it can be tough financially for parents to come to our school without a lunch program and without a transportation program. They all want to be there. They buy into the model. They have to bring their kids to school or partner with a child care agency to get them there. So our parents buy in. They want to be at our school. It's not out of convenience.
Also, I would think with those high numbers of students with disability, I would think, like you said, the word spreads fast with that. And those parents are willing to transport them wherever to get that quality.
Absolutely. One of our parents of those students just posted on her social media that she drives close to an hour each day just to get her students to her children to our school. And my kids are in the school. I have a 2nd and a 5th grader in the school. We're gonna.
Okay, great. I think that, you know, your growth scores are real, or I mean, despite if you're getting kids that are coming in behind, the fact of the matter is that, you know, that is a huge opportunity from a growth perspective, and your growth scores are kind of just right on the line there, year over year. So, you know, longer term, we'd like to see you break out of that performance grade of a D and really see a higher growth score down the road. I also just, you know, adding middle school is a big change. So it's not something that you go in school into lightly, and I think having when you talk to schools that have added it, a lot of them will go back and say, I wish we had not done that. We should have stopped at 5th, or we shouldn't have, you know, maybe gone slower or waited longer. So I would just be thoughtful about that.
Yeah. I would say something like what the Charlotte Learning Academy, what they finally did implement as far as the seats available. If you're seeing a trajectory of the children who are attending your school longer, having more proficiency, you may want to be very careful doing that middle school with the students that haven't grown up in your program.
Yeah, be careful how many seats you open up. It's what she's getting at.
That's right.
You know,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Like how many 5th graders do you have right now?
24.
So you might not want to do more than 30 6th graders.
They have 6th grade, don't they?
If you're going to
They have 6th grade
They have
already.
6th grade now.
So
But
they
going
have
up to
6th
7th grade,
yeah,
going up to
what I'm-
7th grade.
What we're saying is you might want to be careful and not say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and try to really hit it off with middle school, and we're going to try to have 80 8th graders next year and have a whole influx of new students that haven't been with you, because that's what Charlotte Learning did, and they're 40% behind.
Right. We intentionally started small. We were approved for K through 8 back in 2014, and we chose to start with K2 because our model is based on creating a positive, nurturing environment and getting students excited about school and so on. And we didn't think that you could do that with so many coming from all different school systems that had already had some bad habits instilled in them. So we did grow small for that reason, and we don't have more than 2 classes per grade level. So every grade level only has 1 or 2 classes.
Are you keeping the same students though? All the way through? Are they staying with you?
Right, and then if you get into 7th grade, pretty soon those kids in middle school are going to really determine a lot of your testing with such a small school. Great. So thank you for your presentation. We appreciate it. We're ready. It's
Thank you.
We're looking at Capital Encore next, which is nice to see a school that all the trend lines are going in the right direction. That's good.
Thank you.
Enrollment,
Something in the room today.
growth, grades.
Can we go quickly with them?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Jeremy Feebig. I'm current board president, a founding board member, and a parent of two of the students at the Capital Encore Academy. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, or today. Just want to say I think we're headed in the right direction. We have a unique student population as we're housed right next to Fort Bragg. That presents some unique challenges for us, certainly. But I think you'll agree that we're headed in the right direction, and our Principal Angela Hill is here to explain the rest.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm very excited to be here. A little nervous just because I enjoy speaking in front of students and parents. But I'm very excited because we have good news to share. We're very happy where we stand now. We're a C school. We've met growth for the 2016 and 17 school year and 17-18. We've grown to house now more than 500 students. And now we know that we're where we're at because of the things that we've learned from our past. Thank you. Thank you. Because I joined the team after the first year, so I joined in 2015. And so we've learned a lot over these last 4 years that I've been there in the 5th year previous to me. And we know that a lot of the things that we've learned has come from past trials and failures and mistakes. But also we've learned through those experiences, and it's influenced our current performance. We do have a tagline of teaching and learning the art of success. So these are some things that we've done recently that I feel has led to the success that we currently have. We did join the A+ School Network. We are a school, an arts integration school, but we've been doing it on our own, not with a support team. So now all of our staff has been trained in a 5-day training at NC State this summer on how to integrate math, science, social studies, language arts with the arts program that we have at our school. We've been able to retain and attract high quality staff. We have implemented a comprehensive needs assessment because we know we get feedback from our parents, we get feedback from our students, we get feedback from our stakeholders, but we really needed someone from the outside that knows a little about our school, but can look at all the data and just cut down to exactly what we need to do to continue to improve. We do have an extensive strategic and school improvement plan, and the difference in this and other plans that we've had previously is that we are doing that part of when you plan and you act your program, but you have to assess it afterwards and change what you're doing. And so that's kind of hard to do when you're building a plane and flying at the same time. But now, I mean, we've really gotten to this comfortable place of we know who we are. With the high quality staff, we have the North Carolina Charter School Teacher of the Year, Courtney Samuelson. We have a Regional Teacher of the Year at our school, Charter School Teacher of the Year before, Mr. Falls. So we really have a lot of things in place. And then our continued Singapore Math Professional Development. Math, that's the math program that we follow. And so it's a very conceptual math, it's very rigorous. And so what it's taken is that we've had to train our staff and not just one-shot programs. It's modeling, teachers coming from other schools that are successful, us going to schools that do successful, having people come in and model for our teachers and our teachers teach it and us give them feedback. We're not satisfied though. We work really hard, and we wouldn't work this hard if we just wanted to be average, and we understand that C is average. Our staff culture is one where we push each other to step out, take risk, and strive for excellence. I have a sign in my office that they have to go past to get chocolate off my desk, and it says, "Go the extra mile, it's never crowded." We want to be ahead of the crowd. This is our goal that we shared with you guys last November. It's our strategic goal, and it's 2022, that we want to have 80% of our students proficient. And so it is a 5-year goal. And it's a huge goal, but we're headed in the right direction, making these leaps and retaining our staff and our students so we don't have to keep redoing things each year. So our staff retention coming into last summer, so not this past summer, not 2018, 2017, we only retained 35% of our staff. This past summer, we had 80% return. Our percentage in growth from last year was 70.2 to 83.8. Our performance grade in ELA went from a 58 to a 60, and math 47 to 51, and then proficiency in science went from 47 to 75. And we met our growth goal for last year. We also have part of our tagline is our 4 I's. And so just a few things. So one of our I's is innovate. So we are working on A+ design lessons. We've changed our arts rotation. This started last year. So our kids in kindergarten through 5th grade, they go to one art class for 6 weeks. We're on a trimester schedule. So they actually can get in depth into that art instead of it being Monday visual arts, Tuesday drama. And so we're seeing really good results out of that. Also with our electives, our middle school students are able to choose arts that they want to explore and go deeper in, and they do it for the whole trimester of 12 weeks. We have arts integration team planning meetings during the day. Our arts team pushes in with our teachers and then our support staff, as well as me and my assistant principal. We are in the classrooms working with the students during that time so they can plan integrated lessons. Imagine we do have one of our students who started Seth's Wish, which is a foundation for homeless people in Fayetteville. It has grown from one boy. He was in 4th grade when it started. It has gone from him to now they have their own place. They used to work out of our school, and now they've purchased their own building or leased it downtown, and they're able to feed kids at our school as well as those that are homeless. My assistant principal stepped up this year and he created a drum line. We saw that our kids were beating on desks anyway. And he is a former music teacher. And so from 2 to 3 each day, he is working with a group of kids, and these kids are motivated. They've played outside and our neighbors enjoy it. So we don't get the cops called on us. It has been great. But he imagined, how can I help these kids with the talent that I have? And he stepped forward to do that. And I'll be doing a TED Talk group with my middle school students 2nd trimester, so they can use their voice in the correct way and be focused on what they need to share with the community. In choir, we do have a collaboration with Wilkes County. One of the schools there does Singapore math, and so we have their math consultant coming and working with our teachers, and she's bringing 6 teachers with her on October 19th. To model lessons. So we'll do a preview, model lessons, and then she'll let the teachers ask questions, and their teachers will be working with our students. So teachers can't say it can't happen at our school, because here are strangers that are doing it at our school with our kids. And then Inspire, we have just been allowed by Fayetteville Downtown Alliance to be able to have a community mural on our wall. It's a sacred wall. From the business that we are in. It used to be a department store, but they're allowing our students to work with an artist in residency to create a mural for our school. So we're really excited about that. And then we found out last week that we'll have 3 students have their artwork in the Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit at the North Carolina Art Museum. And that's a big, big plus for us. We're really excited about that. And so that's it. I mean, I know we're on the right direction. We are not satisfied with status quo. We're working hard, and we celebrated. But as soon as the celebration was over, the next conversation was, what do we got to do to be a B? So
I think that it's nice to see a school that all the trend lines are going in the right direction. Increase. No, how many kids did you say you had this year?
A little over 500. We had about 5 kids join us on Friday.
Wow, that's a huge growth. So,
That's
growth index is going the right direction. Grade is going the right direction. Almost on par with the county at this point. What's your cash reserve?
We have a management company. I'm unsure of that. I just handle academics.
It's roughly $80,000 right now.
Okay.
What's your physical location?
Oh, so yeah, you work with a management company, so that's a little bit different too.
Yeah, we're right on Hay Street, the restored Hay Street. We're 126 Hay Street. We're in the old Capitol Department store.
Long time ago, I taught in Cumberland County.
Yep, we're right there. Great location.
Y'all got 500 students on Hay Street?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Impressive.
It is, isn't it? And it's only busy between 3 o'clock and 3:25.
I'm sure it's. I mean, looking at, I guess what impresses me the most about what y'all are doing is how fast your enrollment's growing, but at the same time, your academic results are growing up too. Because usually when we see enrollment that fast, we see a decrease in academic performance, but y'all are going the opposite way. I mean, the guidelines would say that y'all would be in a 3-year renewal, but I'm leaning towards a 5 after we see the audit.
And we were cautious with moving to the high school, so we asked for a delay in that because we knew we needed to beef up and solidify what we're doing K-5, and I feel like we're on the right path to that, really focused on building our kids and keeping our kids, and so then they're our kids.
Great.
Right.
Yeah. No,
you want to maintain yours.
Things going in the right direction. It's good to see.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for making it quick.
Next time, bring the drum line.
I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Good. Well, let's make this one really fast, too. Not good that you're recusing yourself, but, all right, Research Triangle Charter, is that our next one and last one?
Yep.
While they're making their way up, I'll note that if, except for last year, they're just low performing. They're not continually low performing. And otherwise meet the requirements for a 10-year renewal pending the audit. So just keep that in mind as we look at this.
They've never been low performing before, right?
No, this is their first. This is their first time they've low performed. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Gerald McNair. I'm a board member and treasurer at Research Triangle Academy.
Yeah, so they're not.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lori Hill. I'm a director of school quality that works with Research Triangle from National Heritage Academies.
And good afternoon. I'm Wayne Muhammad, principal of Research Triangle Charter Academy. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us this time and this opportunity. This is my first time before the board, so I certainly want to thank you for this. We are excited about what we are doing at Research Triangle Charter Academy, and we want you to know that we have the utmost confidence in the work that we're doing, and certainly we hope that you will have the utmost confidence in the work that we are doing. As you could see in the presentation, and if you've looked over it, you could see our results for the last several years. We have met and exceeded growth the last several years, 3 out of the last 4 years to be exact. And this year we did not meet growth, and we missed the letter grade C by 1 point. So disappointed as we were in that outcome, we do realize that we take it as an anomaly. We are super confident in what we're doing and feel like we're headed in the right direction. From 2015 to 2016, and from 2015-16 to 16-17, our overall EVOS growth index score increased by 2.75 points. When you look at Research Triangle's performance relative to the schools in the area, the closest schools to us, we are outperforming the schools closest to us. The average of the schools closest to us in math is 35%. We are performing at 45%, and in reading, their average is 49, and we're at 50. We're also right there with Durham Public Schools, a local school district, in terms of performance as well. Their average is 46% in math and 46% in reading, and again, we're performing at 45% in math, 50% in reading, and we are sure that that performance would have been higher had it not been for last year's performance. I would like to highlight very quickly before I go into the improvements, just some other pieces of data that you don't have, but I certainly would like to bring it to your attention. Again, our overall performance was a 54, and reading achievement and growth and performance were solid and on par to where they've been the last several years. Math was where we really took a hit this past year, with the performance being a 48 and a grade of D in math. So what we noticed when we disaggregated the data, when we looked at it, when we did a drill down, our performance in reading was solid across all grade levels, with the exception of 5th grade. Every grade level had proficiency above 50%, except grade 5, which was at 26%. When you look at our math results, all of the grade levels were above 50%, again, with the exceptions of grades 5, 6, and 8. So we understand what we're looking at in terms of the performance. We really feel like there was an issue with math, and so we're working to correct that. So what we will do moving forward is not necessarily that we will do anything differently. We just want to do what we're doing better. We feel like we're doing a lot of things better. I've had the blessed opportunity of working at a number of different charter schools, from Sugar Creek Charter to Sally B. Howard Charter. I've worked for KIPP, the KIPP network in Memphis, and now with National Heritage Academies, and I'm more than confident in the way that we're going about handling our business at Research. And so we've identified 3 priority areas. One of those is better segmentation and grouping of learners, and that's on the slide, and I'll And so what we'll do in that regard is our school, so just to help you get some context, the way our school is structured is as a K-8 school, I'm the building level principal, and then I have 3 deans. So there's a dean who oversees grades K through 2, a dean who oversees grades 3 through 5, and then there's a dean who oversees grades 6 through 8. My deans are the primary instructional leaders of the building. I'm the instructional leader of the building, but they are doing the groundwork. They're doing the observations, the primary observations. They directly supervise the teachers. I train the deans and lead and instruct the deans. And so what we are doing is sitting down, myself with the deans, sitting down with the teachers to analyze their grade level rosters to figure out who's proficient and who's not among the returning and the new students. We are identifying students who are below proficiency, and we're placing them in the proper intervention caseload so that they can get the assistance that they need if they're in grades K-5, and then students who are in grades 6 through 8 are being placed in intervention electives so that they can get the support that they need. And then there's also a progress monitoring schedule that has been developed so that we can track the progress of those students who are performing below grade level. The second priority is more stress on data-driven instruction. And again, these are not things that we want to do differently. These are just things that we are committed to doing better. We have weekly standards-driven assessments that can help teachers track how their students are performing, particularly around the power standards. These teachers are posting these data tracking charts in their rooms so that they can share the progress of their classes with their students, hopefully to give them some inspiration and some push on their performance. Our teachers are also doing data notebooks with their students so that their students can have ownership of their performance as well. I meet with the deans weekly in what we call O3s or one-on-ones so that I can properly coach the dean, so that I can discuss their teachers' performance with them and figure out how to best coach them in coaching their teachers and determine next steps, particularly around instruction. Our teachers are also doing reteaching and reassessing, and so we have developed a spreadsheet for that will have a timeline attached to it so that we know when teachers will reteach, exactly what they will be reteaching and what they will be reassessing. And then data dives, and I know a lot of people have talked about that today, but that's certainly one of the things that we employ at research. So after every quarterly assessment, after the North Carolina check-ins, we also do data dives to help determine what our next steps will be instructionally for the teachers, as well as what the next steps will be for our interventionists who are working with those struggling students. Finally, more data-related teacher coaching. Looking at data, analyzing data, disaggregating data is not easy for everyone, and so we want to make sure that our teachers are as proficient and skilled in it as possible. And so my belief is that the way that we do that is to continuously put it in front of them, to have those conversations, to keep their eyes on data and keep the conversation around data. And so our deans, the deans will use their weekly coaching sessions with the teachers. They are engaged in O3s or one-on-ones with their teachers on a weekly basis. And so we're making sure that those sessions are centered around their assessment data, whether it's weekly assessment data, monthly assessment data, or quarterly assessment data, to make sure that they're making the right instructional next steps, and deans will work with them collaboratively to make sure that they're doing that. We also have wing meetings. So the K2 dean meets with all of the teachers on her wing once a month. The 3-5 dean does the same thing. The 6-8 dean does the same thing. And so in those wing meetings and in our staff meetings, which are held once a month, we want to make sure that those meetings are used to highlight and discuss trends and patterns that we see in the data, whether it's weekly assessment data, monthly assessment data, or quarterly assessment data, and that we're taking the proper steps in response to that data. And then we also have support regionally. I know Kip talked about that, and we have that very same thing. We have a curriculum and instruction department who assists us, and we already have made a commitment. They've already made a commitment to us to be in our buildings at least twice a month this year. They were in our building. They're actually in our building tomorrow. As a matter of fact, supporting in both math and ELA. They'll be in our buildings again on the 23rd and the 24th of this month. So they are committed to helping us improve instruction and instructional quality in both math and ELA. And so that in effect, will keep us on the trajectory that we're going. So that really is the direction that we're going in. Those are the steps that we're taking, and I'll let our board chair, our board member Gerald, talk to you about the governance, the board governance, and then if any questions.
Excuse me, sir. I got a question for you before you leave.
Yes, sir.
Is this Dean model typical of this NHA organization that you work with?
Yes, sir, it is.
Do you have an intervention dean?
We do. So one of the 6-8 dean is currently our dean of intervention. So she serves in both capacities.
Double duty?
Yes, sir. Double duty.
All right. And do any of these NHA schools in the state perform fairly well, or, I mean, who are you partnered with?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
He wants you to brag on Greensboro Academy.
Is that what he wants me to do? And Summerfield?
Just go ahead and do it. So you know
I went ahead and cut right through that.
Is that what he wants me to do?
So
I thought he was having a real senile moment.
Any other questions relating to that? And you can talk about governance if you want to. That's fine. I mean, I think we probably understand how your governance works pretty good. And I think, you know, this is statutorily, if you wouldn't be here today if you'd got 1 point higher, because you would have been a C. And that's what puts you on the low performing list. You're not continually low performing. And, you know, from my reading of the statute, you're entitled to a 10-year renewal. So unless something comes up. So, I mean, unless you want to add something or somebody has any questions, I just, you know, I don't know unless somebody else has any questions.
I just have a couple quick questions.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Do you guys provide lunch and or transportation?
We do provide lunch, but we don't provide transportation. But I think the good thing about us not providing transportation is our enrollment is strong. We're at the strongest enrollment we've had.
So it's stable, you're saying?
Yeah, our enrollment this year is our enrollment typically has been under 700, but now our enrollment as of today is 737. Wow. Our offered capacity is 745. So, you know, parents have confidence in research. They're bringing their kids to us. They like what we're doing.
Is your economically disadvantaged number accurate here? Is 32%?
Yes. Our free and reduced lunch number is around 67%.
Mr. Chair, could I ask one more question?
Yes. The acting chair will allow you one question.
I do understand that there is a school, Greensboro Academy, that is the jewel in the NHA program.
Yes, sir.
My question to you is, you're not ambitious to knock them out of that role as the jewel in the NHA program?
Oh, we absolutely are. We absolutely are. I'm of the belief that research is primed to do some big things. And I know that we can be the jewel of the network of the 13 schools that we have in our state. I don't see any reason why we can't be number one. I believe it so much, so I drive all the way from High Point. I live in High Point. And I drive all the way from High Point every day to come to this school because I believe in it. I believe in the work that we're doing. I believe in the kids and families that we serve.
How far is High Point?
I know we can do it.
That's further than Greensboro.
Wow.
It's about an hour and 20 minutes every day.
Thank you.
One way.
One way.
Wow, with no traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
You must like audiobooks. That's what I do.
ESPN.
All right, any
Oh,
other
serious.
questions?
Well, I need
Ms.
clarity
Reeves?
on my question. You said your free and reduced lunch population is 60-some%?
It's about 64% right now.
And so that 32 is only direct cert, right?
Right.
So, I know we keep screaming about this. How can we get this number to be accurate?
Okay, so on that, I want to talk about that
Okay.
in a second, but let's wrap up with.
Yeah,
NHA
any other
if we can.
questions specifically to
That's what
Research Triangle?
That's what I thought in my mind what the population was, but this did not bear that out.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, it's back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
I was gonna have
Yeah,
some
on
fun
that
got
free
really-
lunch, or on that ED number, I was talking with Dave about that. I think it's important that we figure, I think if some people on the board want to kind of serve as an ad hoc committee to try to figure out how we get the most accurate data.
Yeah, this is bad. That's bad.
Because it's,
That's a huge disparity.
yeah.
Ms. Reeves is volunteering.
I think Ms. Reeves has volunteered as the ad hoc chairwoman.
Trying to chair that up.
But I don't know what we need to do, Dave, but I think if we can start to put some work into this, it is related to the federal funds piece.
I'll volunteer to help
for the
with that
CSP grant.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I think
That's
Joe's
an
got some
important-
That's been
inside
on,
knowledge.
that's been on Joe's radar for a while.
Well, this is gonna be very important for the grant,
Yeah.
very important for the grant.
Do we have to use direct cert numbers for the grant?
No, we'll talk about that in just a minute when I do, when we talk about grant work. We intend to use the same data we use for the transportation grant, direct certification, with CEP and whichever one is the highest.
All right. Good job, team. We are potentially able to end on time. So let's make that happen. Let's go ahead with our amendments.
All right, good afternoon. I just have a couple of amendments for you guys for discussion today. As a review, there were several amendments that were approved by the state board just last week. So the Explorers School, their weighted lottery amendment was approved. Bonnie Cone Classical Academy's enrollment increase and relocation was approved. And then Pine Lake Preparatory and Healthy Start Academy's mission statements were approved. Today you have two amendments that you need to discuss and vote on. The first one is KIPP ENC's request to adopt an articulation agreement. So that was posted on eBoard. They are under the statutory allowed enrollment priorities. They are wanting to adopt an articulation agreement that would give the KIPP Gaston students, which is the K-12 school, priority to the students at KIPP Halifax, and then also any child in the KIPP ENC network. So if they go to KIPP Halifax, KIPP Gaston, or KIPP Durham, if they move to a location which is closer to another KIPP school, they would have enrollment priority.
I move we recommend that that amendment
I'll
be
second
approved.
that.
I am abstaining from that vote.
All right, any discussion on the motion? All right. All in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, next.
All right, the last one is Westlake Preparatory Academy's request to decrease their enrollment. So specifics were posted on eBoard, but they had originally projected to enroll a little bit over 1,100 students over a 5-year period, and now they are cutting that down to 765 students over a 5-year period. The board has said that in consultation with its EMO, which is Charter School USA, and with its development partner, Red Apple, they concluded that it would be wise to plan for slower growth and a smaller model that would be more viable based on their facility plans and what they are planning as a school.
I move we
Sounds good to
recommend
me.
approval to the state board.
Second?
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a question, if I could. Is it the high school part of the enrollment that they're eliminating? Are they just wanting to be a K-8?
It's a
K-8 school,
And so they're,
reducing the number of K-8 students.
oh, so it's not like they're eliminating an additional,
Now, this is a school that's in their planning year. They're actually in their
I was gonna say, they
first
haven't
year
opened
of
yet.
planning year.
oh, I gotcha.
And Charter School USA told me that they're rethinking their model of their K-8 and trying to get it to that 700 student model. That's what they intend to start building.
750, yeah,
This school hasn't opened. They're due to open in August.
got it.
Yeah.
All right. Further discussion? All in favor? All right, great. Send those to the state board. Thank you. All right. Anything else?
that is it for amendments. Do you want to go to the academic data review?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
You're already up there.
All right, overview. So we have this year, based on the academic data that came out and was certified last week by the state board, we have 28 continually low-performing schools, 6 low-performing schools that are not also continually low-performing. So that is 34 total schools. 9 of those are 2019 renewals, which you heard today, and 6 of those are 2020 renewals. There are a few statutes that govern academic performance. So I wanted to kind of just run through those. Low performing, obviously, you guys have talked about that a lot today. A school performance grade of a D or an F, and then met or not met expected growth. And then continually low performing means they were low performing at least 2 of the 3 consecutive years. They, in the general statutes, there are a couple of statutes that mention non-renewal or termination. So 115C 218.95A says that the state board may terminate, not renew, or seek applicants to assume the charter upon the following grounds, and one of those such grounds is failure to meet the requirements for student performance contained in the charter. So I'm just kind of giving you an overview of statutes that would apply when we're talking about academic data. The other one is the renewal or termination of continually low-performing schools. So this, came up a little bit today, but the state board may terminate, not renew, or seek applicants to assume the charter of a school that is continually low-performing. However, the state board shall not terminate or not renew the charter of a continually low-performing school solely for its continually low-performing status if the school has met growth in each of the immediately preceding 3 school years, or the school has implemented a strategic improvement plan approved by the state board. Low-performing schools, we got 28 of them, only 6 were not on the continually low-performing list. So these were the low-performing schools. You heard from Research Triangle Charter today because they are renewing in 2019. That's why they were up on today's list. Then you also have KIPP Charlotte, Uproar Leadership Academy, Coastal Preparatory Academy, PAVE Southeast Raleigh, and Bridges Academy. So these are the schools that are low performing but not also continually low performing. For continually low performing, you have 28 schools, and 13 of those are in these two, the 2019 or 2020 renewal cohorts. The 2019 ones you've heard from already, which leaves you the 2020 ones. And so what I'd like to hear from you guys today as I'm planning for the next few months of meetings is how you would like to prioritize hearing from these low-performing schools. Obviously, your agenda is going to be quite full with hearing clarification interviews and applicant interviews. So we will try to sprinkle in some of these low-performing schools over the next few months, and I'd like to know what your priorities are in terms of hearing from these schools.
We also have to include the 7 that we've added to the list today of the renewal 2019.
Yeah, and we have those 7 schools that were added based on the discussion, which.
Okay, so we have, right, well, those are 7 schools. They're not continually low performing or low performing, but we just have to, we have to have a renewal interview with them. So I guess, you know, I don't know what everybody else's preference is, but I really feel like if a school is low performing or continually low performing, we need to bring them in just so that I think them coming and defending their plan to us helps them to really hone in on what they need to do. And I think we've seen some good results from doing that. And I think it's probably a good, we've already done the 2019 renewal schools. We might as well do the 2020s next in line and then just, you know, and then sprinkle them in, you know, we could probably do 3 or 4 a month.
As long as we haven't already seen them today.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's why I said we've already done 2019. So out of the 28, we've already seen 8. So we've got 20 left.
Yeah.
So just sprinkle those 20 in. If we did, 5? We could do it over the next 4 months if we did 5 a month.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of that?
These are the schools you would be looking at for the 2020 renewal schools. And then these are the 18 remaining schools that you'd be looking at. So we can do that. We can prioritize the 2020 renewal schools and then work on going down the list of the other schools.
That works for me.
That's all I have. So any further questions or anything you'd like me to consider as we're planning out these next few meetings?
No, I mean, I think that covers it. I don't know how we're gonna get out of the cycle of seeing some of these schools. I think, I'm even going back to Ace Academy, which their plan was good. Like they were, but it's just like
Isn't
not
it
met,
we've seen them
not
3 times?
Not met, not met.
Yeah, just like I said to that one school, I've seen them every single year.
It's like,
Well, Holowasaponi, the same thing.
Yep.
They do just enough not to get closed, but never really start performing. And I don't know what you do with a school that is not bad enough to close, but not good enough to say you should keep going.
I know. Close it.
I'm starting to feel that way too.
I mean, I think that like the CLA or type schools are more of an anomaly than, I don't know. It just makes me think some of these other ones.
Yeah, I know I'm
I mean,
standing.
it's hard. It's hard to.
I know I'm in the way of you and your highway, so I'm going to try to go quickly. But the fantastic, great news is we were awarded this CSP grant for this year. And before I even start, we just have to give a huge shout out to Craig Tucker, who wrote this grant, and in the collaboration with members of our team. But Craig was the sole driver behind this and did a great job. Did a great job seeing where we were a little short last year, beefed it up. And you're probably going to see a few things in here you're thinking, why did we put this in the grant? It was based on the recommendations that we had gotten from last year. And the name of the program, the grant, is ACCESS, which stands for Advancing Charter Collaboration and Excellence for Student Success. When we had a conference webinar last week, and we've been assigned a I don't know what you call her, program officer, I think her title is. She told me that she specifically asked for North Carolina because of the fellowship program that is in there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So that was really good. This is what we're going to talk about, the overview of it, some of the key features, the timeline, which is very condensed. We'll have a little time for questions and answers. But this obviously is a competitive grant to the federal government. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've applied for it, and fortunately this is the year we were awarded. They only made awards to 8 states, and we had the 4th highest score of those 8 schools. It is a 5-year grant for a total of $23.6 million. The major priorities are to this. We will be sub-granting to our schools, either in the planning year, first 3 years, or existing schools, for the 4 categories will be for, let me see if I can find that. Okay. There's, again, we'll go over what the 4 categories are. It is one of the big things with this fellows program, which I'll talk about in a minute, is sharing best practices, not only with our fellow charter schools, but with traditional schools. And hopefully the State Board of Ed has always asked me, what are charter schools doing to share best practices? So through this grant, we will definitely be doing that. And then in this grant, there's 4 positions that were allocated to implement the program. So we'll be hiring 4 new people in our office during this 5-year period. The 4 positions that we'll be hiring is a program administrator who will oversee the entire program coordinator. We'll need a budget specialist and a technical assistant specialist. So we want to have at least 2 of these staff members hired by December because of the timeline we're getting ready to talk about in just a minute. There's the 4 categories, or the schools that are eligible for this grant, is if you are in your planning year, planning and implementation. So if a school is in a planning year, there's a certain amount of money that is available to them. If they're in the implementation portion, that's it. That means they're in their first 3 years, year 1, 2, or 3. If a school wants to expand, this is a school that it has to be a high-quality charter school that wants to expand its enrollment so they can serve a larger economically disadvantaged population, or replication. If we have high-quality charter schools that are currently serving a high economic disadvantaged population, and we want them to replicate, this money can be used for that. The process that we will use is the same as the application for a new charter. We'll run the applications through CSAB, then CSAB will make a recommendation to the state board, and then the state board will make the final decision. Okay, Access Fellowship, this is again what I was talking about earlier, with the lady from Washington was really excited about. The leaders of the schools that are awarded these sub-grants must complete a year-long, what we call Access Fellowship. There's going to be a tremendous amount of professional development that will be offered by our office, by DPI, and then some of our really strong leaders across the state, and hopefully some of the leaders that are in this program. And at the end of the 5 years, we should have a community of 100 charter school leaders that have gone through this fellowship program that, again, can go out and share best practices for our fellow charter schools and traditional public schools. And if you get this grant, the responsibilities to be in the fellowship program, and so the leaders of these charter schools, you have to have, there'll be a 4-day Fellows Institute in the fall, which is, we're talking about this coming fall. That will be up at, we're going to partner with NCAT and Cullowhee for that. There's be 2-day policy summits in the spring, 12 PLC meetings, 4 in person, 8 virtual. They must present at a state or a national conference. They got to complete a portfolio of strategies, best practices that they will keep with them, and have to display it to the CSAB state board, and they must host a collaboration confab, and then provide mentorship and development to future leaders. Again, that's something that we really haven't done as a charter school community. I think there's certain people that have done a nice job sharing best practices, but because of this grant and of this program, you're going to see a lot more collaboration and sharing of best practices. Accounting and monitoring and reporting, this is huge. It's a federal grant, so it has to be an awful lot of monitoring paperwork that we have to do. We'll be partnering with our DPI partners. We're having a meeting this week with FBS, our new Deputy Superintendent of Operations, our CFO, to talk about how this money is going to come into our state and how we're going to send it back out. The first conference call that we had, I got the impression that there would be sizable drops of money into the state coffers, and then we would in turn dole it out. It's not going to be like a federal, like the EC money, where you have to go through cash management and say we need X number of dollars for these bills. We will get a certain amount of this money dropped into our account, and then we will dole it out, and as we need more, we'll ask for more.
So Dave, on that note, do they have to see the applications and the amounts applied for to dole that money out, or are they going to give the money up front?
They'll give us portions of the money up front. They won't give us the 26 million or 24 million up front, but they will give us, and that's what the main topic of our conversation this week when we meet with them again. So it's portions of it. We're trying to find out exactly what they consider portions. But we don't have to provide expenses that match the revenue that's dropped. Okay. So the timeline for this grant, which again is very tight, from now until December, we're going to be recruiting members for this team. The fellowship program and sub-grant application and monitoring process has to be established, and a sub-grant RFA is going to be posted and advertised. So by December, we have to have our application online for schools to start applying for it. In January, we'll be providing ongoing technical assistance to prospective sub-grant applicants. And in February, we'll be asking for a letter of intent by February 1st of any school that wants to apply for the grant. We'll look at those letters of intent and see if they truly qualify for it, and then we'll let them know if they are eligible. In March, Sub-grant application is due March 31st. April, application reviews are conducted and recommendations are made to CSAB. In June, State Board approves a sub-grant, and then in July, we have orientation, and we can start giving reimbursements by July 31st. That April, May, June might change a little bit because State Board doesn't like to do action on first read, and I think that they probably want to look at these grants applicants for approval for at least a month, so we might have to bring them to you in April, State Board of Ed in May, and they vote on it in June. Okay.
Dave, if I could ask, is there an expiration date on this money, or does it have to be
5 years.
spent?
That's a great question. This grant timeline is for 5 years, and then the money has to be spent in those 5 years.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dave, how many awards are gonna be made? Are you gonna make all the awards the first year and that's it for the 5 year? Or
That's another
awards
great
will be
question.
made?
In the first year, the grant was written to give 3 grants for the planning and implementation year, that stage. So there'll be 3 grants for schools that are in their first to 3 years. There'll be 2 grants for people that are in schools that are in their planning year. 3 grants for high-quality charter schools that want to expand, and 2 grants for high-quality charter schools that want to replicate. And that pretty much follows it out every year for the next 4 years. So at the end, we'll be giving a total of 12 grants for the planning and implementation years. We'll be given 10 grants for the implementation, 18 grants for expansion, and 10 grants for replication. And it is possible that some of our schools could replicate and expand at the same time and get 2 of these grants. Obviously, we would want to share it to as many schools as possible, but if I do feel like we're as an office is going to have to work hard to target some schools that we really want to see expand and some schools we really want to see replicate.
So the application for each one of those will be a little bit different?
Yes.
Or will it be the same application for all?
Every one of these,
The 4 different?
every one of these categories, they must be targeting a high economically disadvantaged population, and in the grant, they must agree to have a weighted lottery, and they must agree to have transportation, and they must agree to have a lunch program. It doesn't have to be the federal lunch program, but it has to be something very similar to it. So those are some stipulations in there. Again, I think if some of us were to write it, we probably wouldn't have wanted to put that in there, but we had to based on the feedback that we got. So again, they must have a weighted lottery, they must have for transportation, they must have a lunch program.
So they must provide transportation
Yes.
and lunch.
Yes. So there's some high-quality charter schools that we have that might think, you know,
That we could replicate
this
if they don't
isn't.
do that.
Yeah, or where I'm really hoping is some of our very high-quality charter schools in the state that their diversity rate is not where it needs to be. We want it to be where they want it to be, and they will apply for this so they can expand to increase that diversity. That's the purpose of this.
Y'all got a lot of work.
It's a ton.
Oh, man.
So when you say school who wants to expand, what is, you mean that particular?
Expand enrollment.
Grade-wise or just enrollment?
Could be either way.
Either way.
Right.
So one discussion we had prior, one of the conditions is going to be a school would have to apply for using a weighted lottery in order to achieve that.
Correct. Yes, if right now if there's an existing high-quality charter school that wants to replicate, for them to qualify, they would have to ask their board to adopt a weighted lottery in order to qualify. Same thing if they wanted to expand.
So-
Same thing for a new school that's just
an amendment
standing in
to
front of
that,
you.
Right. They have to give an amendment to their charter. And then apply?
So,
Well, if it's a replication, I mean, if there's a high-quality charter school that wants to start a new school in the same vicinity to target that population, as long as the new school has the weighted lottery, that would be sufficient, I would presume, yes?
I'm going to have to get clarification on it. It's my assumption that that existing school must also have a weighted lottery, but that's a good question. I'll find out this week.
Because a lot of that could be targeted neighborhoods too,
Correct.
to achieve that.
All right. we're excited.
So the
to
great news
see-
is we got the grant.
Yeah.
The tough news is we got the grant.
Well,
We
how
got,
are
we got work to
spend all
do.
that money, right? Isn't that a problem we'd like to have?
Oh, my God.
All right. Well, the time is 3:55. Anything else
Plan November.
from the Office of Charter Schools?
Was that all of,
All right, so for November, we
Epicenter
are going
Healthcare.
to see some of our first batches of applications. It's a 2-day meeting. 2 days.
Clarifications, from our accelerated?
Yep. And so we'll work on putting that agenda together. We're gonna try to, stick with the definitely 9 o'clock start on Monday. And maybe
8.
I think it's hard for people to do 8. I think we'll just do 9, cause
I'm
I
up
know
and ready to
like-
work at 8, just not ready to talk to y'all yet.
Yeah. Well, I know people like, some of you drive home far.
I was up at 4 this morning.
So,
I'll be quiet, Phyllis.
we're not gonna have the meeting at
She
4.
drives at 80.
Maybe we can have that meeting in Greensboro.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Um, And
I can sleep in.
what, we're gonna try to end a little bit earlier on the Tuesday,
Yeah, we're talking about trying to get you out of here by
2.
Dave, if it were in Greensboro, I'd be
3.
calmer too.
Okay, but with that said, I'll
You ain't get all
seek a
jacked up.
motion
Move
for
we
adjournment.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We got back on track.
Amazing.
Forms anymore. Oh, well.
You what?
Got us out of the
Reimbursement
Oh,
forms
my
anymore.
God.
How about that?
I know, that's so weird.
See ya.
Enjoy the train.